Chapter 1960. There's no harm in meeting Tianmi anyway. Wu Chen wouldn't lose anything if he met Tianmi, and he also wanted to see what tricks this woman had up her sleeves. In addition, this meeting would have an extraordinary impact on Tianmi, and there would be no room for her to retreat in the future. Once this matter was exposed, it would definitely be a fatal blow to Tianmi's reputation. It would arouse the hostility of the other halls of the farmer party, and they might even gang up on her. Therefore, no matter what, Tianmi had no way out. She could only go down the dark path with Dustless. Moon Goddess, go and call that woman over. I want to see where she gets the courage to come alone. About 10 minutes later, there was a sudden sound of slow footsteps in the brightly lit hall. Tap, 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 as the footsteps got closer, Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat, slowly opened his eyes. His deep pupils stared at the beautiful figure behind Moon Goddess. His gaze was fixed on her body and didn't move. Leader, you're staring at me like that. I'm a little embarrassed. Tianmi found that she was being stared at by Dustless. She blew out a smoke ring in a relaxed manner. She didn't realize that she was in the tiger's den. She spoke naturally. Tianmi, I don't like to talk nonsense. Tell me your intention. Staring at this mature woman, Dustless felt that she wasn't simple. This indifferent and casual behavior was definitely not a pretense or forced calmness. The eyes were the window to the soul. Dustless didn't find any panic in Tianmi's eyes. He even caught a trace of ambition to control. This is interesting. This woman's ambition is not small. She wants to control me and play me in the palm of her hand? Dustless's sleepiness disappeared. He said with a burning gaze, Tianmi, you should know the consequences of meeting me, right? Of course I know. After today, I'm afraid I'll be seen as a traitor of the farmer party. I'll be despised. Tianmi sat down elegantly, completely ignoring Moon Goddess's existence. She said to herself, however, in my opinion, knowing that there are tigers in the mountain, but going to the tiger's mountain is tantamount to suicide. Therefore, Tianmi has come to meet with Jiaozhu to seek a way out for the brothers of Kue Hall. So you want to join the school of Enyang? Dustless knocked on the armrest with his eyes closed. He wasn't interested in this at all. Sorry, the school of Enyang doesn't like small fries. Hearing this, Tianmi's beautiful eyes flashed with anger, and the genuine qi in her body had already spread slightly. Hall Master Tian, I hope you understand that this is the school of Enyang's mirage. The Moon Goddess glanced at Tianmi indifferently. Her words were filled with threat. Humph. Tianmi snorted and withdrew her genuine qi. She said straightforwardly, I'm here to cooperate with the Enyang school, not to join your school. Cooperation? Haha. Dustless opened his eyes and stared at Tianmi in surprise. Soon after, he could not help but chuckle. You think it's funny? Tianmi's face darkened slightly. Even though Dustless didn't directly mock her, she knew that he was mocking her ignorance. Don't you think it's ridiculous? You actually want to cooperate with me. Have you figured out your identity? Tianmi, you're just the hall master of Kue Hall, not the hero of the school of Enyang. How can you represent the school of Enyang to cooperate with me? You don't deserve it. Dustless couldn't help but laugh. At first, he thought that this woman was quite scheming. However, after a simple conversation, he suddenly lost this feeling. What was cooperation? It was very simple and direct. Both parties could cooperate if they had common interests. Tianmi joined Dustless's camp. Although she could have foresight in terms of intelligence, it was also like inviting a wolf into the house for Dustless. There was nothing special about it. Phew, hearing Dustless's mockery, Tianmi calmly blew out a smoke ring. Suddenly, she changed the topic and said, I heard that Jiaozhu and Duanmu Rong of the Mo family have a good relationship. They can be called bosom friends. I wonder how she is recently. This has nothing to do with you. I will find her sooner or later. Frowning, Dustless answered abruptly. He had already gone to the Shaoxing Manor. However, to his disappointment, Duanmu Rong had been taken away, leaving only a few corpses. Ha! It seems that Jiaozhu really cares about Miss Duanmu. Tianmi's eyes lit up. She chuckled and said, if Miss Duanmu is in my hands, will you still refuse to cooperate? Tianmi. Are you threatening me? Dustless narrowed his eyes and looked at her expressionlessly. The flow of air suddenly stopped, and suffocating pressure filled the air. The atmosphere instantly reached an explosive peak. It seemed that a fight would break out if there was a disagreement. This is not a threat. It's just a bargaining chip for cooperation. Tianmi tried to remain calm. Being stared at by Dustless's indifferent eyes, she felt as if she had fallen into an ice cave. What will happen if I refuse? Will you order your men to kill Rome, Dustless asked calmly. He did not take any rash actions. He just stared at Tianmi with colder and colder eyes. The pressure on Tianmi also doubled. Hee. Of course not. Moreover, I also believe that the sect master is a woman who has tender feelings for the fairer sex. He won't kill me. Tianmi put on a charming smile, and her charming laughter was extremely seductive. This woman has the ability to tease men. Moon Goddess looked at Tianmi gently. She even suspected that if it were not for her existence, this woman would immediately take some actions to seduce Dustless to agree to her conditions. Having tender feelings for the fairer sex doesn't mean that I won't kill women. Moreover, countless beautiful women have died in my hands. Dustless retorted in an unfriendly tone. After pondering for a while, he said, cooperation is fine. At least bring Rome, to see me. Otherwise, there is nothing to talk about. Of course. Jiaozhu, please wait for a moment. Tianmi will leave. Chapter 1961. Fate is really cruel and full of twists and turns. Staring at Tianmi's disappearing back, Dustless said with emotion. Why does Hierarch have such feelings? Sympathy for the weak? Yueshan was surprised, and she was curious about Dustless's idea. She always felt very strange. Dustless's apparent age was only 17 or 18 years old, but sometimes, he gave people the illusion that he had lived for hundreds of years. Sympathy for the weak? That's right. I just think that this woman is a bit ridiculous. She wants to play with me. If she knows my true origin, she will understand the meaning of my words. Dustless finally closed his eyes. Anyway, he came from another world, and he was familiar with the development of the future. If he was controlled by Tianmi, wouldn't it be too ridiculous? What's more, even if she threatened Dustless with Duanmu Rong's safety, it was useless. The outer path reincarnation technique of Rinnegan was not a joke. About half an hour later, Tianmi came. This time, she was not alone. She came with a beautiful figure that Dustless had been thinking about day and night, Duanmu Rong. Sorry, I have caused you so much trouble. Duanmu Rong stood in front of Dustless with shame, and her watery eyes were dim. Don't worry about it. Isn't everything okay now? Above the mirage is my territory. Dustless smiled and patted Duanmu Rong's shoulder, indicating that she didn't need to think too much. A person's long life was always a little bumpy, and she just needed to get over it. Yueshan. Dustless suddenly looked at Yueshan, and he motioned her to take Duanmu Rong to rest. Miss Duanmu, this way please. Yueshan understood Dustless's meaning, and then took Duanmu Rong to the wing room. In the large hall, only two people were left, Dustless and Tianmi. Hierarch is really affectionate. Sister Duanmu is really lucky. Tianmi chuckled, and her every move was full of charm. Although Tianmi was somewhat beautiful, Dustless didn't know why he couldn't look at her. Instead, he felt that being in the same space with her made his breathing a little stuffy. I will inform Fu Su of your request. After looking at Tianmi for a while, Dustless continued, however, you have to give me Zhang Liang's head. Otherwise, I still can't trust you. Zhang Liang? Hearing this, Tianmi frowned. In terms of strength, Zhang Liang might not be as good as Wei Zhuang or Gunia, but he was extremely intelligent. Sect Master, with all due respect, Zhang Liang, This is a necessary condition. You can reject it, but the cooperation will be voided. Without giving Tianmi a chance to talk nonsense, Dustless said coldly, Tianmi, someone should have told you that there's no free lunch in the world. You're still too inexperienced if you want to get something from me without sewing. Hearing this, Tianmi's expression froze. After taking a deep look at Dustless, she gritted her teeth and said, in that case, Tianmi will accept your mission. I hope that your sect will keep its promise. After Zhang Liang's head is brought here, I will naturally tell Fu Su that it's your contribution. After the destruction of the School of Agriculture, the new hero chief will also be called Tianmi, Dustless replied calmly. In reality, he wasn't at a disadvantage. Although he agreed to help Tianmi become the new hero chief of the School of Agriculture, he didn't know if she could control others. Farewell. Joy appeared on Tianmi's face as she walked away gracefully. Her long, snow-white legs could be seen from time to time. Right, Tianmi still has something I don't understand. Suddenly recalling something, Tianmi turned her head to look at Wu Qin. Speak. This time, Dustless didn't beat around the bush. If it wasn't something sensitive, there was no harm in telling Tianmi, is it true that Zheng will come to Shanghai 3 days later? Although Daoji described that he heard it from Dustless, Tianmi found that Dustless wasn't the kind of person who liked to talk nonsense, especially about such secrets. Hearing this, Dustless's mouth suddenly curved into a strange arc. He replied, of course it's true. You have also discovered the Golden Fire Cavalry in Shanghai City. This is just to pave the way for Zheng's arrival. Of course, I deliberately leaked the news that Zheng is coming to Shanghai. Dustless laughed in his heart. It was true that Zheng was coming to Shanghai to worship heaven and watch the mirage. The only difference was that Dustless deliberately leaked the news of Zheng's arrival. In this way, the rebels would inevitably be attracted, and Dustless could take the opportunity to wipe them out. Time flew, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In these 3 days, the security in Mulberry Sea City became more and more tense. Especially on the last day, almost every household had 2 soldiers of the Qin state in charge of guarding. Both sides of the street were almost full of soldiers of the Qin army. Even children now understood that a big shot was coming to Shanghai. When Li Si and Fu Su came to Shanghai, they didn't have such a big lineup. In fact, it was obvious who was coming to Shanghai this time. Zheng, the king of Qin. Where did those people from the Mo family go? Dustless didn't join the team to protect the king of Qin. He only sent Yueshan and concubine Yan. As for Great Si Ming and Young Si Ming, they followed him quietly. Most likely, they are hiding in an inn like us. Dustless, Great Si Ming, and Young Si Ming were hiding in Pao Ding's vacant inn. Because it had 2 floors, they could overlook the changes in the surroundings. If they want to take action, they should do it now. Otherwise, they won't have a chance. I heard that Zheng is going to live in Si Moon Villa. It's heavily guarded, and the people of Mo family can't get close at all. It's most likely that they are on the street. Young Si Ming added. After following Dustless, she became more talkative. Chapter 1962. What you two said makes sense. If we miss this opportunity, there won't be another one. There's only one chance. They should have planned the details of this in detail before. Dustless nodded in agreement. With Zhang Liang's personality, he definitely knew where the problem was. Therefore, he would not let go of this opportunity. Yueshan, how's the progress of the elixir of immortality made by the school of Yinyang? A powerful male voice came from the unique square palanquin. However, it was a stretch to call it a palanquin. At least, it was in Dustless's eyes. At best, it was a square frame that was then covered by a veil. Those with excellent eyesight could still see the blurry figure inside. Your Majesty, hearing that, Yueshan hesitated. She actually did not know the specific progress of the elixir of immortality. That fellow Wu Chen is really something. This is going to be terrible. Yueshan rolled her eyes and thought hard about countermeasures. Deceiving the emperor was not a small crime. Beheading would be considered a light punishment. Even the Qin kingdom's laws were strict. If it was serious, they would use the torture of collective punishment. The school of Yinyang would be in trouble. It should be completed in a few days. Yueshan had no choice but to follow Dustless's dark path. Very good. Even through the veil, one could see the ecstasy on Yingzheng's face. For so many years, he had been thinking about immortality every day, to the point that he almost went crazy. Now that his dream was about to come true, he was naturally excited. You want to live forever with the body of a mortal? Birth, old age, illness, and death are the processes that all things in the world must go through. No one in this world can escape from this iron law. Hearing Yingzheng's happy tone, Yueshan snorted. She did not care about immortality. Since the school of Yinyang had a new master, Dustless. Although his astrology was not as good as the original Dong Huangtai, his knowledge was definitely much better than Dong Huangtai. After all, Dustless had experienced countless worlds and seen all kinds of strange things. He was not something that Dong Huangtai could compare with. If there's really an existence in this world that can't be decayed by time, it's probably only that guy. The image of Dustless's back appeared in Moon God's mind. Combined with his unbelievable power, Moon God thought it was possible. She felt that Dustless's background was mysterious. Moon God often wondered where Dustless came from, but she couldn't figure it out no matter how hard she tried. Caw caw caw. Right at this moment, an unexpected change suddenly took place. Countless dark shadows suddenly sprung out from the inns on both sides of Yingzheng's path, each holding a large blade that shone with a cold gleam. This sudden scene stunned everyone. These people, seeing this, Dustless, who was secretly observing them, was about to make a move. However, after seeing their clumsy posture, he immediately stopped. These people did not seem to be assassins from the Mo family. Taking a closer look, almost all of them were wearing black masks. I remember that this group of rebels are all wanted criminals. Why do they have to wear masks? Is it really that powerful to wear masks? Dustless muttered to himself. Gunia and the others were wanted criminals. Even if they wore masks, would it be of any use? Could they be from the farmer's clan? Dustless thought to himself. To be honest, from the way these assassins moved, they didn't seem to be top-notch swordsmen like Gunia and Wei Zhuang. In terms of ability, they were far inferior. You're courting death. Seeing the assassins in black rushing over, Concubine Yen and Moon God immediately launched an attack, wrestling with the assassins. Their mission was to ensure Yingzheng's safety. However, in a way, Yingzheng didn't need anyone to protect him. He had Heaven's Inquisition, which was ranked first in the sword manual. How could such a person be ordinary? Moreover, it was common knowledge that since ancient times, the people of the Qin kingdom had always revered martial arts. As the emperor, Yingzheng was definitely not an ordinary person. It was just that he rarely showed himself, so there was no chance for him to make a move. Avenge Lord Changping. Yingzheng is in that group. Don't let him go. Avenge Lord Changping. The black-clothed assassins scrambled to be the first to charge at Qin Shi Huang while roaring loudly. Lord Changping, this unsightly name was like a blade that pierced right into Yingzheng's heart. In an instant, a cold air began to gather on his face, brimming with an ominous air of hostility. His temperament changed drastically, and he even drew his sword out of its sheath. No wonder I found it strange. So these people aren't the rebels from the Mo clan. Hearing the name, Lord Changping, Dustless was enlightened. A faint smile appeared on his lips. Zhao Gao, that bastard, he can't help but want to make a move on Fu Su. Why was Yingzheng avoiding Lord Changping so much, and even hated him so much? Lord Changping was once one of Qin Shi Huang's meritorious officials. He was the right prime minister, and he was related to the eldest son of the Qin kingdom, Fu Su. However, he later went to the Chu kingdom and rebelled against the Qin kingdom. Other than that, Fu Su and Lord Changping had a very special relationship. This was perhaps what Yingzheng hated the most. In history, Lord Changping was Fu Su's uncle. How ambitious. You want to use this opportunity to frame Fu Su? Zhao Gao and Li Si are really cunning. They have really put in a lot of effort to help Hu Hai ascend the throne. Dustless was too lazy to interfere. These small fries could be left to Yueshan and concubine Yan. There was no need for him to get involved. He just needed to watch silently. Moreover, no matter what, Fu Su was definitely going to be the scapegoat. The matter of Lord Changping had always been a sore point in Yingzheng's heart. Now that he was used by Zhao Gao and Li Si, no matter if Fu Su was the one behind the assassination, he would still be punished. Chapter 1963. What a bummer. The people of the Mo family that he expected didn't appear. Wu Chen's heart suddenly waned. He was a little disheartened. He sat down on the stool with deep disdain on his face. Looks like Zhang Liang is just short-sighted. Although it was dangerous to carry out the assassination now, it would be even more dangerous when Yingzheng returned to Haiyu courtyard. After all, it was the territory of Qin army, and Yingzheng was at a very close distance now, so close that he could even see his vague shadow. Zhao Gao, your subordinates are all good for nothings. Not only Dustless, Great Si Ming, and Young Si Ming, but also Li Si and Zhao Gao, who were standing next to Yingzheng, were whispering. Li Si's eyes were burning with anger. Bastard. Seeing Li Si looking at him angrily, Zhao Gao wanted to kill himself. This guy would get angry at him whenever he was unhappy, and he was often scolded. Damn you, Li Si, I will tear you into pieces and wipe out all your family members. Zhao Gao roared in his heart, but on the surface, he just swallowed his broken teeth and put on an expression that said, "It's all my fault." You found this kind of person to assassinate His Majesty? Do you have a death wish? Li Si stared at Zhao Gao and scolded, even without the guards, these people can't hurt His Majesty. Well, you are right, Minister. Zhao Gao could not deny it. Although Yingzheng did not do it personally, it did not mean that he was weak. On the contrary, this unfathomable emperor was rumored to be very evil. When Jing Ke had tried to assassinate the Qin emperor, Jing Ke had mysteriously died. Even though the outside world had said that Jing Ke had been killed by Gunya, how many people knew the truth? Everything was a mystery. Qin Shihuang's life was shrouded in countless secrets, and all kinds of rumors were spread. Then what are you trying to do? Aren't you digging your own grave by finding such a powerful assassin? And judging from the situation, if we are captured alive, we will be exposed as the real culprits. Although I want to help Hu Hai ascend the throne, I don't want him to be exterminated by His Majesty as a traitor before he can even become the emperor. Hearing this, Li Si became even angrier. In his eyes, Zhao Gao's actions were akin to asking for trouble. Lord Prime Minister, don't worry. Even if we are captured alive, the blame will not fall on us. These assassins are just bait. Their true identities are farmers. Zhao Gao explained proudly, if His Majesty knew that these people were farmers, based on His Majesty's personality, what do you think he would do? Hearing this, Li Si frowned and said resolutely, if that's the case, with His Majesty's personality, he definitely won't let those traitors off so easily. He will definitely make them pay with blood. What a brilliant move. He looked at Zhao Gao, who was laughing sinisterly in surprise. He wanted to borrow Yingzheng's hand to destroy the farmer clan. Not only that, he also took the opportunity to plot against young Master Fu Su. After all, those assassins were shouting Lord Changping's name, and Fu Su's uncle was Lord Changping. How could Fu Su stay out of this? According to the laws of the Qin kingdom, it was impossible. This was a good strategy to kill two birds with one stone. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a huge tremor suddenly attracted everyone's attention. Ka ka ka. A quiet inn was suddenly crushed. Following this, several black figures dashed out from within. All of them were holding long swords, and their faces were filled with hostility. That is, a wisp of imperceptible cold light flashed past Wu Chen's face when he saw the man in a black robe. Quicksand Wei Zhuang. You're finally willing to come out and die. The words you made me wait for have withered. Dustless stared at these people with glowing eyes. He realized that Wei Zhuang was not the only one. The other anti-Qin alliance had also suddenly appeared. Tianmi, that woman, staring at the people beside Wei Zhuang, Dustless frowned. He did not receive any information from Tianmi that the farmer clan would also participate in this operation. Oh, everyone is mobilized. This formation is really shocking. Not only Wei Zhuang, but even the experts of the farmer clan are here. Are they planning to make a final fight? Looking carefully, it was not only Wei Zhuang who had come. Even top experts like Gunia and Zaiyozi were here. Not only that, the experts of the farmer clan had also participated in this encirclement. Yueshan and concubine Yan's side suddenly fell into a disadvantageous position. It's time for us to make a move. Otherwise, concubine Yan and Yueshan will not be able to withstand it. Great Si Ming and young Si Ming looked at each other. Just as they were about to leave, a cold voice stopped them from leaving. I suddenly changed my mind. Don't meddle in other people's business. It's best to let Yingjing die here. Dustless's words were shocking. At this critical moment, he decisively chose to stand aside and watch. He suddenly felt that it was better for Yingjing to die. First of all, Yingjing was here for the elixir of immortality. If he had really succeeded in refining it, it would have been fine. The key was that Dustless had tricked Yingjing into coming to Shanghai. This was the crime of deceiving the emperor. According to the law, he should be executed. Secondly, Zhao Gao and Li Si had already framed Meng Tian. In the future, Meng Tian would definitely be sent to the northern border to fight with Meng Tian. Once he left, he would never return. Until he was killed by Zhao Gao and Li Si, he would never step into Xianyang again. That's not bad. If Fu Su ascends, it will indeed be more beneficial for our school of Yin Yang. Great Si Ming and young Si Ming nodded in agreement. Dustless and Dustless had a good personal relationship. Judging from Dustless' personality, he was a person who knew how to repay kindness. Dustless had saved him time and time again, so he would definitely not mistreat the school of Yin Yang. Chapter 1964. As for the current king of Qin Yingjing, he could only say sorry. People who walk different paths cannot make plans together. Although Yingjing is a good emperor, he and Wuchen are not on the same path. Sooner or later, they will part ways. Yingjing had always seen the 100 schools of thought as a huge threat and wanted to get rid of them. But it was worth mentioning that the school of Yin Yang was also one of the 100 schools of thought, and it was the strongest. On top of that, compared to Fu Su, Yingjing was a tough man. Previously, Wuchen had used the elixir of immortality to lure Yingjing to Mulberry Sea. If he was still alive and knew that the elixir of immortality had not been completed, there was a high chance that Yingjing would be enraged and wipe out the school of Yin Yang. Since that was the case, Dustless could only act in advance. Damn you, Zhao Gao. What are you doing? On the streets that were dyed red with blood, a large number of disciples of the school of thought and Qin soldiers were fighting. It was an unprecedented chaotic battle, and the pungent smell of blood permeated the air. This has nothing to do with me. Zhao Gao had a bitter expression. He did not know where so many school of thought rebels came from. Looking around, there were at least 1,000 people fighting. I remember you said that you had pointed the spearhead of the school of thought at Dustless. How can you still have the time to deal with His Majesty? This is a dereliction of duty. Li Si scolded decisively, pushing all the blame to Zhao Gao. The so-called follower and ally, from a certain perspective, was taking the blame for himself. This bastard. Hearing this, Zhao Gao wanted to cry but no tears came out. He was even more dissatisfied with Li Si, but he could only accept it. After all, Li Si was the prime minister, while he was just a first-rank official. The difference in status was too great. It could even be said that if Li Si killed Zhao Gao, Ying would only frown. As for Zhao Gao who killed Li Si, he would definitely be killed. That was the difference. Quickly go support His Majesty. Seeing that Zhao Gao was still standing there in a daze, the furious Li Si kicked his butt and scolded, "Idiot, if His Majesty dies, Fu Su will immediately ascend to the throne. At that time, it will be difficult for the two of us to move forward. Isn't Lord Prime Minister's worries too groundless? We can totally change the edict." Zhao Gao said with a frown. In fact, he wished that Ying would die right now, so that he and Li Si could change the edict and set Hu Hai as the legal heir. "Idiot, have you forgotten about the school of Yinyang? Do you think Wu Chen, that brat, will watch us change the edict?" Li Si looked at Zhao Gao in annoyance and said seriously, "And you've neglected one person. Fu Su and Meng Tian's relationship is very good. Meng Tian has 300,000 soldiers under him." "This, my lord, is right." Without hesitation, Zhao Gao rushed over to support Ying. Suddenly, he felt that what Li Si said was very reasonable. In this era, whoever controlled the military power would in fact control everything. Puchi. 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 On the other side, since Ying was the main target of the siege, the disciples of the School of Agriculture swarmed over. There were also many powerful warriors, even though Yueshan and concubine Yan were both powerful warriors. But if Wei Zhuang, Gunye, Zaiyozi, and the other powerful warriors of the School of Agriculture joined forces to besiege them, how long could they last? 2 fists were no match for 4 feet. The human wave tactic was still very effective against some people. Seriously, I've already decided to kill Ying. Concubine Yan and Yueshan don't have to work so hard. It's good that they can give up a little. Wu Chen, who was watching the situation silently, couldn't help but frown. He sighed and said, "Humans still need to know how to act according to the situation. Although the order I gave them before was to protect Ying's safety, I haven't shown up yet. It means that the plan has been changed. Concubine Yan and Yueshan should find a chance to escape. If Ying doesn't die, he will go to the Mirage sooner or later. Yun Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality is not completed yet. By then, we..." Great Si Ming's face turned cold. Then, she gritted her teeth and left. "Stop." Glancing at her, Dustless stopped her and said, "Great Si Ming, you don't have to worry about this. Just watch quietly." "But, no buts." Dustless interrupted Great Si Ming and said calmly in his heart, "No matter what, I am someone who has lived in a few worlds and killed countless immortals. If I can't even deal with an emperor, where am I going to put my face?" Dustless did not want to waste time explaining. He blinked his eyes gently. The reincarnation Sharingan in his left eye flowed with an evil radiance. Tomb of Samsara, border prison. A few shadows sped out in succession. They were silent and untraceable. In this world, no one could detect the shadow of Tomb of Samsara, border prison. It's not a loss for you to be able to die under this move. The power of Tomb of Samsara, border prison was undeniable. Dustless had used this move to kill a god. Now that Ying was killed by this move, it was definitely a top luxurious VIP treatment. Do you think I'm someone who can be killed by anyone? On the other side, Ying was surrounded by the disciples of the School of Agriculture. However, he was not afraid. His hawk-like eyes were filled with coldness. Those who were targeted by Ying felt as if they were sitting on pins and needles. Pfft! It was also at this moment that a bloody hole appeared on Ying's chest out of nowhere. The attack went through his entire body and destroyed his heart in an instant. How is this possible? Who did this? Ying looked at the wound on his chest in disbelief. He looked as if he had seen a ghost. No one attacked him. Why was there a bloody hole in his chest all of a sudden? Heaven's wrath. This must be heaven's wrath. Ying must have done all kinds of evil and angered the heavens. Someone in the crowd started to kick up a fuss. They attributed Ing Zhang's death to the heaven's masterpiece with groundless reasons. Needless to say, it did cause quite a commotion. Chapter 1965. The people in this era were not like the modern society in the future where all the mysteries could be explained by science. The people in this era believed in ghosts and gods. Especially when Ing Zhang died in such a strange way, it was inevitable that everyone would think the wrong way. His chest had been perfectly fine all of a sudden, and now there was a bloody hole. Was this something a human could do? It must be the wrath of heaven. Run! His Majesty has triggered heaven. For the past few years, the Empire has brought disaster to the world. Millions of people have lost their homes. This is the wrath of heaven. That's right. Run if you don't want to die. Do you want your families to be implicated as well? Nobody knew who was the one who deliberately made the Qin soldiers panic. The soldiers threw away their armor and fled in all directions. It was hard to accept the wrath of heaven and the resentment of heaven if their families were implicated. Zhang Liang, this kid, Dustless could not help but give him a thumbs up and said in admiration, "This guy really knows how to take advantage of the situation." What wrath of heaven? It's all nonsense. The jade-faced young man who was making a fuss in the crowd was Zhang Liang. Let's wait a little longer. It's almost time for us to go out and clean up the battlefield. Dustless stretched his body. He planned to take action later. It was too much of a coincidence that he appeared right after Ing Zhang died. It was inevitable that some people would use this to their advantage. But if we leave them alone like this, those traitors will run away sooner or later. Great Si Ming looked worried as he gritted his teeth. He seemed to be very unwilling to give up. It's okay. Hearing this, Dustless took a sip of tea calmly. Eliminating the rebels had always been his side job. His main purpose was to get the 7 constellations of Azure Dragon. As for those rebels, it was just a matter of convenience. Moreover, who told you that this group of traitors could escape? Don't forget that there are others besides us. At this moment, there are people who are more anxious than us. Dustless closed his eyes calmly and let his mind wander. Plop. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Ing Zhang finally fell to the ground with a confused look. Until the moment of his death, he still did not understand how he died. Could it be that he had really angered the heavens? It was complete nonsense. Throughout history, there were countless tyrants. Xia had tyrant Jia, Zhou had King Yu of Zhou, and Shang had King Zhou of Shang. They were all famous tyrants. Why didn't they die in such a bizarre way? Damn it, it must be some despicable person who plotted against me, Ing Zhang roared in his heart, but he could not utter a single word. After a long while, he closed his eyes completely. The heart was destroyed. Not to mention this backward era, even in the era where Wu Chen lived before, there was no way to save the heart. There was no way to save it. Your Majesty. Zhao Gao and Li Si, who had just arrived, were filled with grief and hatred. When they saw the hole in Ing Zhang's chest, their faces turned pale, and they had a bad feeling that a great calamity was about to befall them. Of course, it was not that they cared about Qin Shi Huang, but after this emperor died, Fu Su would naturally ascend to the throne. At that time, wouldn't they be in trouble? We must not let Fu Su become the emperor. Zhao Gao and Li Si exchanged glances. In their hearts, they decided that they could not let Fu Su become the second Qin Shi Huang. Otherwise, their good days would come to an end. In the past, the two of them had done many things to set Fu Su up, especially this assassination. Some of the assassins were arranged by Zhao Gao, and their goal was naturally to frame Fu Su. Quickly capture this group of rebels. After capturing them alive, interrogate the mastermind. Li Si waved his hand. Some of the Qin soldiers who did not escape, as well as the 6 sword slaves, swarmed over, and once again engaged in a brawl with the peasant soldiers. Zhao Gao, come here. Rolling his eyes, Li Si immediately called Zhao Gao over and sneered, I have a good plan. A good plan? Zhao Gao was overjoyed. As the Prime Minister, Li Si's shrewdness was unquestionable. Naturally, his plan was flawless. Order the 6 sword slaves to capture a few people alive. Make them confess that the person who ordered this assassination was Fu Su. Li Si's eyes shone with a light that seemed to be choosing people to devour. He sneered, "We must let everyone in the world know that Zheng was killed by Fu Su. This way, he will be despised by everyone. Let's see who will speak up for him. Ayayaya, what are the two of you planning?" At this moment, a voice without any warning entered Zhao Gao and Li Si's ears. The two of them were startled and turned to see that it was dustless. Why is there no movement like a ghost? Li Si gloomily glared at Wu Chen and secretly cursed his bad luck. Everywhere we go, we meet this guy. Why do the two of you have such ugly expressions? Dustless looked at Zhao Gao and Li Si with a smile and said directly, "Zheng is dead. The two of you should be very happy. Don't you slander us." Hearing this, Zhao Gao's face changed and refuted, "Dustless, how dare you call His Majesty by his name? This is, swoosh swoosh swoosh." At the same time, a deadly blade light swept over. The blade shone with a cold light that reflected on one's skin and caused a slight tingling sensation. What was worth mentioning was that the enemy locked onto by this fatal sharpness was neither Wu Chen nor Zhao Gao, but, "Prime Minister, get out of the way," Zhao Gao reminded with a sharp voice. Looking over, the person the blade light was pointing at was the stunned Li Si. Although Zhao Gao had reminded him, it was still too late. Li Si was not a martial artist and his reaction was much slower than a martial artist's. Puchi. A stream of crimson blood splashed in the air. The blade cut through Li Si's body and a right arm covered in blood appeared on the ground. It was Li Si's right arm. Chapter 1966. Li Si, kill me if you have the guts. Wei Zhuang's eyes were full of disdain. He didn't have Li Si's despotic power at all. He admitted that he was defeated by Dustless. There was always someone better than him. After all, Dustless had enough strength to despise everything. But what was a mere Li Si? To put it bluntly, in Wei Zhuang's eyes, although Li Si was a capable minister, he was jealous. He was good at scheming, but as for force, he was not even as good as a soldier of Qin state. A civil official was always a civil official. Wei Zhuang, you don't have to provoke me deliberately. I've been an official for many years. I'm no longer a hot-blooded young man like you. Li Si's arm was bleeding. Although the military doctor stopped the bleeding in time, it was still painful. He scolded angrily, "Do you want to die so easily? It's not that easy." "Huh," Li Si laughed hysterically with blood in his gums. "I want you to taste all the pain in the world. I won't allow you to die so carelessly. Otherwise, I'll suffer a great loss." After all, he had lost an arm. If he didn't let Wei Zhuang experience it himself, Li Si really felt sorry for himself. Time flew, and it was night in a flash. On the Mirage, overlooking the night scene of Shanghai City, everything in the world was changing in their eyes. Everything, including the red lights and green lights, the red light streets and alleys, flashed across their eyes. However, tonight's Shanghai City was a little different from before. Although it was still gorgeous, it was covered with an invisible shadow. There was no other reason. It was all because of Zheng's death, which was no less bad than the collapse of the sky. "Did you kill Zheng?" Inside the Mirage, Yueshan and concubine Yen stared at Dustless in shock. They both said worriedly, "Such a big crime is enough to wipe out the whole family 10 times. It's a pity that Zheng won't have that chance." Hearing that, Dustless, who was lying on the main seat, opened his eyes and changed to a comfortable posture. He crossed his legs and said calmly, "Don't worry. No one in the world knows it was me. Go back and have a rest." "Rest?" Yueshan and concubine Yen looked at each other. Dustless asked them to go back and have a rest when the emperor was dead. Was he kidding? Zheng was dead? Who could stay calm? How is the situation with Zhao Gao and Li Si? Dustless suddenly asked. In order to prevent Fu Su from ascending the throne, they will definitely do something desperate. I'm afraid Ing Zhang's posthumous edict is in Li Si's hands. There's no movement for now. Moon God gave Dustless a look that said, everything is under control. It's only temporary. Based on my guess, Zhao Gao and Li Si will probably change the edict to frame Fu Su and make Hu Hai the emperor, Dustless said with certainty. Are Zhao Gao and Li Si that bold? Imperial concubine Yen was suspicious of Dustless's words. Li Si usually looked like a loyal ruler. How could he do such a disgraceful thing? Don't think that this is a fantasy. The truth is the truth. Dustless was too lazy to continue explaining. He just seriously instructed the two women, you two can go down. Remember to observe Li Si and Zhao Gao's every move. Understood. Moon God and Imperial concubine Yen nodded, bowed, and left. In the huge hall, only Dustless was left. I've already sent Moon God and Imperial concubine Yen away. If you have anything to say, you can stand up and say it. There's no need to hide. A ripple swept across the void. The dead silent hall lingered. Dustless's calm voice spread to every corner. Tap, 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 following that, the sound of slow footsteps could be heard from the darkness. A woman with an enchanting appearance could be clearly seen. She was walking gracefully. But her delicate face was full of sadness. She couldn't sleep or eat well. Qi Lian, although I didn't restrict your freedom on the Mirage, you were too bold to eavesdrop on my conversation with Moon God and the others. I gave you an inch and you wanted a mile. Dustless stared at Qi Lian indifferently. His tone was slightly cold. Cut the crap. What do you want to save Wei Zhuang? Hope appeared in Qi Lian's crystal eyes. She looked at Wu Chen with a longing expression and said in a low voice, if you are willing to save Lord Wei Zhuang, I can be your slave or maid. I will do whatever you want. Is it worth it? Maybe in Wei Zhuang's eyes, you are just a chess piece, a sword. Dustless sighed. He was envious of Wei Zhuang's good luck. Then, he said bluntly, it's a pity that you are too late. Wei Zhuang was dismembered by Li Si a few hours ago. Dismembered by 5 horses? Hearing this, Qi Lian felt as if she had been struck by lightning. She was stunned. That's right. Li Si killed Wei Zhuang with the cruelest punishment as soon as he captured him. So, it's useless for you to beg me to save Wei Zhuang. Dustless said coldly. If it weren't for him, even Qi Lian would have died. Damn Li Si. How dare he kill Lord Wei Zhuang? I will avenge him. After saying that, Qi Lian left angrily. It seemed that she was going to make trouble for Li Si. Qi Lian, Li Si is protected by the 6-sword slave. I'm afraid you will be killed in a second. Dustless's sudden words made Qi Lian's heart turn to ashes. She couldn't help but smile bitterly. Anyone who challenged the 6-sword slave seemed to be doomed. Yes, he can. An invincible figure suddenly appeared in her mind. Qi Lian wept with joy. Then, she strode toward Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat. Help me kill Li Si. I can promise you anything. As soon as she said that, Qi Lian's eyes were filled with lust. She deliberately pulled her clothes down to her chest. Dustless saw her snow-white and flawless skin. Chapter 1967. On the main seat, Dustless quietly sized up Qi Lian. Her fair cheeks were rosy and her entire body was filled with a mature aura. Every inch of her skin was brimming with a scent that could stir one's heart. What a seductress. I have to say, you are very charming. Dustless gently sniffed the lingering fragrance on Qi Lian's body and nodded in admiration. You agree? Qi Lian was overjoyed when she heard this. She deliberately stroked her hair coquettishly and made some outrageous moves. Some of the private parts of her body that could not be taken lightly were all exposed in front of Dustless. If this fellow agrees, Li Si's head will be mine. Qi Lian smiled at Dustless. Her thin lips were close to Dustless's face as she softly said, "If that's the case, won't you agree?" "It's fine if you agree." "You bastard, are you messing with me?" Qi Lian was suddenly enraged. Dustless might have praised her as a seductress, but the expression on his face clearly stated that he was indifferent. Wu Chen's indifferent gaze did not move at all. His expression was as calm as an ancient well. What made Qi Lianhua even more surprised was that the corners of Wu Chen's lips curled up into a sneer. "Qi Lian, you don't have to lie to me." Dustless glanced at Qi Lian indifferently and said in a bored manner, "Your tricks are too childish. Don't think that your intelligence is superior to others and that you are special. That's just too laughable." "What do you mean?" Qi Lian's expression stiffened when she heard this. She pretended to be confused and said, "Dustless, I don't understand what you are saying. As long as you bring Li Si's head here, I will agree to any of your requests. Remember, any request." Qi Lian was afraid that Dustless would not understand and purposely blew a breath of hot air into his ear. "Humph." Dustless's expression immediately changed when he saw that this woman was still so full of herself. He sneered and said, "Qi Lian, I advise you not to waste your effort. I'm afraid that you will commit suicide by drinking poison right after I kill Li Si, right?" "You?" Qi Lian's face suddenly jumped twice as he raised his head and looked straight into Dustless's eyes. Those clear eyes seemed to be able to see through one's heart. Qi Lian hurriedly moved his eyes away. "Am I wrong?" Dustless smiled disdainfully. "For you, Wei Zhuang is your belief. He is your everything. Now that he is dead, there is no need for you to continue living. Am I right?" "Anne." Sorting out his thoughts, Dustless continued to say in a cold voice, "You offered such generous conditions. At the root of it all, it's just to instigate me to kill Li Si, then commit suicide yourself. Although I can understand your actions, your way of doing things is too foolish." In reality, Dustless would definitely kill Li Si even if Crimson Viper didn't say anything. Therefore, from a certain perspective, Qi Lian's actions from before were completely asking for humiliation. It was completely useless and would only make Dustless hate her even more. "Goodbye." Glancing at the despondent Qi Lian, Dustless casually left. People who liked to think that they were clever often thought that they were special and could scheme against anyone. In reality, this kind of thinking was laughable and ignorant. Everyone had the same head and two hands. There was no difference. Moreover, Dustless was a proper transmigrator. Just based on Qi Lian and he still wanted to scheme against him, wasn't that too childish? Bang! 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 A commotion came from the Mulberry Sea Villa. Looking carefully, the floor was littered with all kinds of exquisite porcelain shards. Under the dim candlelight, one could see the reflections of several people on the floor. Imperial Father was killed in broad daylight, yet none of you were able to find the culprit. What's the point of having a bunch of rice cooks like you? Fu Su threw a rare tantrum. The two people in front of him were Li Si and Zhao Gao. "Young master, you can't blame me or the Prime Minister for this matter." The person who spoke was Zhao Gao. This time, his tone was different from before. It was filled with coldness and a trace of disdain. Moreover, the biggest difference was that Zhao Gao had always lowered his head to speak. This time, he looked directly into Fu Su's eyes. Even Li Si did the same. "Don't blame you?" Hearing this, Fu Su was so angry that he laughed. He angrily rebuked, "You two dare to quibble. Imperial Father was assassinated in front of the two of you. You can't even find the culprit, and you say it has nothing to do with you? How dare you?" "Young master, this matter indeed has nothing to do with us." Li Si also helped Zhao Gao. Their actions were the same. They no longer lowered their heads to look at Fu Su. Instead, they looked directly into his eyes. Their tone was neither servile nor overbearing. What's wrong with these two today? They have a temper. Seeing this, Fu Su frowned. He naturally noticed the change in their tone. The culprit who tried to assassinate His Majesty did not run away. He is right in front of us. Zhao Gao smiled evilly. His face was filled with a twisted evil smile. It made one shudder. Seeing this, Fu Su subconsciously took a few steps back. That's right. Li Si also nodded. His eyes were filled with a sinister smile. Young master, do you still not understand? At this moment, Zhao Gao suddenly spoke. He sneered and said, that group of assassins shouted, clear the name of Lord Changping. Don't you feel that you are the most suspicious? I know your relationship with Lord Changping. The real culprit behind this should be you, young master Fu Su. Li Si was indeed a politician. He misinterpreted a deer as a horse and pushed all the blame to Fu Su. Chapter 1968. What did you say? Hearing this, Fu Su was stunned. He did not expect Li Si to say such a thing. It was obvious that Li Si was being unreasonable and pushing all the blame to him, the crown prince of the empire. It was a complete joke. Was there a need for the future heir to assassinate Yingzheng? To put it bluntly, as long as Yingzheng died, the throne would be Fu Su's. Li Si, are you crazy? Fu Su's face was red, and he was so angry that he felt dizzy. Why would I assassinate my father? There is no reason at all. Is it just because Lord Changping is my uncle? Pedantic. Between an uncle and a biological son, it was clear who was closer. Whether there is such a thing or not, we will know once we capture him and interrogate him. Li Si sneered as he looked at Zhao Gao. His cold eyes were obviously telling Zhao Gao to capture Fu Su. I understand, Prime Minister. Zhao Gao laughed sinisterly as he slowly walked towards Fu Su. His face maintained an exaggerated demon-like smile. It was very creepy. You two bastards still want to capture me? The veins on Fu Su's forehead were popping as he clenched his fists tightly. He finally understood that Zhao Gao and Li Si were being unreasonable and wanted to remove him as the heir to the throne. We are not capturing. Li Si spoke again. After sorting out his thoughts, he explained softly, we just hope that young master can stay with the great elder for a while. After we find out that it has nothing to do with young master, we will naturally release you. How dare you? Unable to tolerate it any longer, Fu Su roared, Li Si, get a clear picture of who you are and who I am. Do you think you can lock me up in jail? A mere prime minister does not have the right to do so. I say, young master, you are the one who does not know who you are. Zhao Gao sneered as he secretly scolded Fu Su for being an idiot. Until now, he still did not know why he was imprisoned. It was not an investigation, but to force Fu Su to commit suicide in the prison. These two dogs of a slave sure have some guts. At the same time, an extremely discordant voice sounded. Zhao Gao and Li Si's faces twitched. They would never forget this nightmarish voice. Master Dustless? Seeing who it was, Fu Su was overjoyed and said excitedly, Grandmaster, please help me get rid of Li Si and Zhao Gao, these two traitors. Fu Su will definitely reward you greatly. Humph, a heavy reward? How laughable. Fu Su, do you still think you can live on? Zhao Gao sneered at Fu Su, directly calling him by his name. Dustless, as the saying goes, there is no absolute enemy. If you are willing to join us, you will definitely have a place in the imperial court of the Qin state in the future. The person who spoke was none other than Li Si. If Dustless was really willing to submit, he didn't mind forgetting their past grudges. Seriously, are your ears stuffed with donkey hair? Didn't you hear what I called you? You two dog slaves are really audacious. Dustless looked at the two of them mockingly. His words had already made his position clear. You want to die. Li Si didn't want to waste words. Waving his remaining arm, he snarled, Wei Zhuang was dismembered by 5 horses. I will definitely dismember you by 10 horses. Is that so? Hearing this, Dustless showed a surprised expression. He pretended to be overjoyed and said, "Minister, for treating me so well, I am really grateful." Sharp-tongued brat. Li Si's eyes flashed with cold light. Waving his hand, he was about to order the 6 sword slaves to attack Dustless when an unexpected change occurred. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A large amount of light suddenly condensed behind Li Si's back, and a pair of cold eyes appeared. "Prime Minister, behind you." Seeing that Li Si was still looking for the missing Wu Chen with a silly look, Zhao Gao hurriedly reminded him loudly, "That brat Wu Chen is right behind you." "What?" Li Si was shocked. He turned his head to look, but what hit him back was a sharp blade light and sword shadow, mercilessly chopping at one of his shoulders. Poochie. Li Si's remaining arm was once again chopped off by Dustless. "Ah!" Li Si howled in pain. Blood flowed out from his wound again. Because the heaven-gathering cloud sword also carried a fatal light attribute attack, the smell of burnt flesh filled the air. Peng peng peng. Li Si's previous arm was chopped off by Wei Zhuang, which was already tragic enough. Now that Dustless had chopped off his other arm, was there any meaning in living in the future? Without both arms, what was the point of living? "Damned Dustless, I will definitely dismember you into 1,000 pieces, peel off your skin, pull out your bones, and ruthlessly trample on you." Li Si was in so much pain that he was sweating profusely. His eyeballs had turned blood red, as if they would pop out at any time. "Ah, you still want to spout such arrogant words at this stage?" Dustless stared speechlessly at the wailing Li Si on the ground and sighed. "Li Si, spouting such arrogant words will only make you seem even more fragile." Li Si was just a scholar. What right did he have to dismember him into 1,000 pieces, or even peel off his skin and pull out his bones? It was all complete nonsense. It was so laughable that he wanted to die. Furthermore, Li Si, you seem to have misunderstood something. With a cold expression, Dustless raised the heaven-gathering cloud sword and said regretfully, "This will be the last time we meet, Minister. In the future, we will never meet again." Xiao xiao xiao. As soon as he finished speaking, the golden light pierced through Li Si's body, leaving behind visible wounds. Poochie. Li Si was killed by Dustless from the waist down, completely losing his breath. As the Prime Minister of a generation, he actually fell to such a tragic end. It was truly tragic. Chapter 1969. Zhao Gao stared blankly at Li Si's body that had been split into 2. He did not expect Dustless to be so cruel and heartless, killing a Prime Minister without any hesitation or mercy. "You dare to kill the Prime Minister?" Zhao Gao's voice was sharp and shrill as he stared angrily. "Such a crime is enough to sentence you to death 100 times. Humph, Li Si dared to commit treason, he deserved to die. In my opinion, the mastermind behind the assassination of my father was instigated by the 2 of you." Fu Su's face was filled with hatred as he looked at Li Si's corpse. He said with a tone that said he deserved it, Li Si deserved to die. It is too easy for him to die so hastily. According to the laws of the Great Qin Empire, such a crime should be punished with chariot splitting, as a warning to others. However, Li Si did not receive this honor. "You have to enjoy it for him, Zhao Gao." Fu Su's gaze landed on Zhao Gao's head as he said coldly, "In your dreams." Zhao Gao spat as his eyes were filled with determination. "Did you hear that? Zhao Gao, you are going to die from chariot splitting." Dustless looked at him with pity, not caring about Zhao Gao's face that was turning purple. "Bastards, chop them into pieces." The enraged Zhao Gao no longer hid his intentions as he roared, "Fu Su, you are not suitable to be the emperor. It is better for you to give the throne to Hu Hai. Go and die." Xiao xiao xiao. The moment he said that, the 6 sword slaves attacked from all directions. They waved their swords and the sharpness was fatal. Stupid things that don't know death. Seeing this, Dustless did not show any mercy. Since they had already shed all pretense of cordiality, he had to eliminate all of them. The chakra in his body gathered as an overwhelming repulsive force exploded. Shinra Tensei. The powerful repulsive force burst out of his body and formed a perfect 360-degree circle that was watertight like an iron bucket. Peng peng peng. The 6 figures who were rushing over were completely unaware of the situation and were instantly sent flying back over a dozen meters. Their bodies were covered in blood and their bones were dislocated and broken. A bunch of trash. Seeing this, Zhao Gao cursed loudly, feeling extremely helpless in his heart. If it were anyone else, the slave of the 6 swords could easily suppress them. But if the opponent is dustless, the slave of the 6 swords doesn't seem to have any advantage. Zhao Gao muttered to himself in his heart, feeling a burst of anger. Without any countermeasures, he could only face the opponent himself. Swish. Swish. Zhao Gao sped over. His big hand was surrounded by clouds of black gas. It was eerie and strange. It seemed that anything that came into contact with it would inevitably embark on the path of destruction. Too weak. Seeing this, Dustless shook his head gently. Without wasting any time, he gathered light in his hand and flicked his finger. Chapter 1970. Damn it. Seeing this, Zhao Gao clenched his teeth in anger and cursed, Wanshan is a piece of trash. He was killed instantly. If I knew he was so useless, I would have killed him earlier. Zhao Gao's face was twisted. His already pale face was even scarier. He looked like an evil spirit. He was a piece of trash in the Luo Net organization that did not need to be killed instantly. Wu Chen's brows slightly raised, and he sincerely felt that it was not worth it for the slave of the 6 swords. To have a master like Zhao Gao, it could be considered as 8 lifetimes of bad luck. Zhao Gao, is it not done yet? Is Fu Su, that brat, dead? At this moment, an unexpected voice suddenly came. Dustless and the others looked over. A handsome young man with heterochromatic eyes came into view. Hu Hai? Although Dustless did not recognize him, Zhao Gao and Fu Su recognized him immediately. Hu Hai also looked at the miserable scene in a daze. What he saw were many corpses. The scene was too horrible to look at. The air was filled with the smell of blood. Blurg, with a slight breath, the smell of blood could be breathed into the lungs. Hu Hai could not help but vomit. Hu Hai, give me an explanation. Fu Su's face was unfriendly. There was a rare ferocious look on his face. He used to have a good impression of his younger brother. Although they had the same father but different mothers, they still had a lot in common. But what Fu Su did not expect was that this younger brother of his who usually looked amiable was actually so vicious. He played tricks in front of others and behind others, and even viciously wanted to kill him. I have something to do. I'll leave first. Realizing that something was wrong, Hu Hai turned around and ran. He was like a breeze and disappeared in an instant. Damn you. Why didn't I see you this powerful when you were cultivating? You are the best at escaping. Zhao Gao was furious. He cursed himself for being wrong in the past. If he had been willing to serve Fu Su, he would not have ended up in such a miserable state. You are a hopeless fool. Although your speed is not bad, but Dustless's body emitted a large amount of photons that instantly disappeared without a trace. It was like a divine rainbow that descended from the heavens, blocking Hu Hai's path. In front of the light, there are no exceptions. Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Hu Hai hurriedly threatened loudly, "Get out of my way. I'm a prince. Do you know the consequences of offending me? Be careful or I'll exterminate 9 generations of your family, no, 10 generations of your family. Exterminate 10 of my clans?" Dustless couldn't help but laugh when he heard this. He teased, "I say, kid, are you sure you want to annihilate my 10 clans? Let me tell you, the so-called 10 clans include friends. Your brother Fu Su is also one of my friends, do you want to kill him as well? You've got guts." Hu Hai flew into a rage out of humiliation. He raised his fist and punched Dustless in the face. No matter what, you are still a prince. I'll give you a special treatment. The spiritual pressure in Dustless's body surged as a destructive sharpness floated out of his body. A faint black light appeared in the void as it slashed toward Huhai. Dao breaking 90, black coffin. Pucci. In just an instant, Huhai's body was sliced into 8 pieces, turning into a pile of mush. Humph, you asked for it. Fu Su snorted. He might be kind and generous, but it didn't mean that he was stupid. Fu Su wouldn't sympathize with a conspiracy that wanted to kill his younger brother. Young master. At the same time, a large number of Qin soldiers rushed over, led by Zhang Han's shadow secret guard. Zhang Han came too late. Please forgive me, young master. Forgetting about the corpses on the ground, Zhang Han got down on one knee in shame. After all, he was responsible for Fu Su's safety. In truth, it wasn't Zhang Han's fault. No one had expected Zhao Gao and Li Si to betray him. Even if he had come, he wouldn't have been able to do anything. It was impossible for him to stop the 6 sword slaves. This brat might be loyal now, but in the future, he'll be a true traitor of Qin. Wu Chen muttered in his heart. In history, Zhang Han was a character with mixed reputations. He led the soldiers of the Qin state and was defeated by Xiang Yu. Later, he surrendered to Xiang Yu without any moral integrity. In the end, he was even crowned as a king. However, the heavens were always fair. Traitors never had a good ending. Even though Zhang Han was crowned king, he was still defeated by Liu Bang, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty. After the city fell, he committed suicide. If not for Master Dustless, I might have been killed. Fu Su couldn't help but sigh. When he recalled the scene of Li Si and Zhao Gao forcing him to abdicate, he still felt a lingering fear. Don't mention it. The school of Yinyang and the Qin dynasty are on the same side, so this is my duty. Dustless smiled, indicating that there was no need for Fu Su to thank him. After chatting for a while, Dustless returned to the elusive mirage. What happened next had nothing to do with him. After all, the throne was undoubtedly Fu Su's. However, as soon as he returned to the elusive mirage, an unexpected guest came to visit him. Tian Yen of the School of Nong? When Dustless heard that Tian Yen of the School of Nong wanted to see him, his first thought was to defect. Most of the School of Nong's disciples who tried to assassinate Jing came from the School of Nong, and almost all of them were killed by the Qin army. Perhaps Tian Yen felt that the future of the anti-Qin alliance was bleak, so he followed Tian Mi and joined the light. It was normal for Tian Yen to want to join the School of Nong. After all, he was the smartest person in the School of Nong, and his foresight was not something others could compare to. According to my guess, she's most likely here to forsake the darkness and join the light. The last time we attacked Yingzheng, the farmers' clans suffered heavy losses. Moon Goddess, just tell her that I have something to do and leave her out for a few days. Let's show that woman who's in charge, lest she's as self-righteous as Tian Mi, who doesn't have the attitude of a loser. Since he wanted to surrender, he should know his own identity and not cooperate. Chapter 1971. He was already beaten like a dog, yet he still wanted to talk about cooperation. This was simply too laughable. Sect Master, why do you have to bully a weak girl like me? Doing so will only ruin your sect's reputation. In the brightly lit hall, a rather crisp voice suddenly rang out. However, it sounded a little sickly, powerless, and very tired. Yueshan, this girl. Dustless looked at Yueshan with resentment. He did not expect Tian Yen to be standing at the side. He did not notice her at all. He instinctively thought that he and Yueshan were the only ones in the large hall. Yueshan naturally noticed Dustless's resentful gaze. She immediately put on a look of indifference. Weak girl? Dustless rolled his eyes and said, if I remember correctly, Miss Tian is the hall master of Lai Mountain Hall. Such an important position is not something a weak girl can take on. Sect Master, you flatter me. Tian Yen is just a first-level girl. Tian Yen said softly. Then, she looked at Dustless quietly. As a hall master, it sounded impressive. However, it was not. She had her own difficulties. First of all, Tian Yen was born weak and sickly. The work of a hall master was not suitable for her. Secondly, in a feudal society, men were superior to women. Sometimes, it was inevitable that she would be bullied. For example, her second uncle, Tian Hu, would sometimes threaten her. Of course, these were not the most important factors. After the last battle, the morale of the entire school of agriculture was very low. Although Ing Zheng was dead, the school of agriculture had lost a large number of elite disciples. Then Miss Tian, may I ask if you have adjusted your status? Don't be like Tian Mi. She thinks she can cooperate with me. She is not qualified at all. Of course, if you want to cooperate, I hope to get something that is beneficial to me. Tian Mi's figure appeared in Wu Chen's mind. He could not help but sneered. Tian Mi and I will cooperate with each other on Zhang Liang's head and Rong Er's head. However, Zhang Liang's head has yet to be delivered. I see. Tian Yen was enlightened. Her expression softened slightly. She looked surprised. No wonder that woman, Tian Mi, is so proud of herself recently. It turns out that she has boarded the Yinyang School's pirate ship and is planning to secretly steal Zhang Liang's head, Tian Yen pondered in his heart. Rather than calling it cooperation, it was actually an unequal treaty. Of course, you can refuse. Please go back now, Miss Tian. Dustless glanced at the moon god and waved his hand, indicating for her to see the guest out. Please, Miss Tian. Ignoring the frowning Tian Yen, the moon goddess made an inviting gesture. Is this how the school of Yinyang treats their guests? Tian Yen snorted and said in a slightly displeased tone, forgive me for being blunt, but the Yinyang school doesn't have the magnanimity of the head of the 100 schools of thought. What a joke. Hearing this, Dustless immediately snorted coldly and said in a deep voice, whether or not I'm the head of the 100 schools of thought doesn't depend on words. It still depends on this. Dustless shook his fist. His meaning was self-evident. Only one's fist could measure everything. Everything else was just a joke. Phew, seeing that Dustless was so insensible, Tian Yen could only take a deep breath to stabilize her complicated emotions. It seemed that she had no choice but to compromise. I have something that the school of Yinyang is very interested in. After I give it to you, what will happen to the school of thought in the end? Tian Yen stated her condition. At the same time, she took out a bundle carefully. It looked like a very precious item. That depends on what it is. Dustless smiled and said softly, the school of thought will naturally be destroyed. Who asked them to go against me? As for your Lai Mountain Hall and Tian Mi's Kuei Hall, they will naturally be preserved. Is this your bottom line? Tian Yen was displeased. She wanted the entire school of thought to be safe and sound, not just Lai Mountain Hall and Kuei Hall. I hope you will respect yourself, Miss Tian. Although I don't know what you have brought, it will be best if it can move me. If it can't, your Lai Mountain Hall will also be unlucky. Wu Chen stretched and immediately changed to a comfortable position. Moreover, everything has its value. It's good enough to let go of your Lai Mountain Tang. You have to know how to be tactful. I think you should understand the principle that a human's heart is not like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Well, take it. In the end, Tian Mi took the silver tooth and threw the bundle away. Straightforward. I like to make deals with Miss Tian Yan's people. That Tian Mi wanted to plot against me. Her character is too bad. If it weren't for the fact that she would give me Zhang Liang's head, her head would have fallen to the ground. Seeing the bundle thrown to him, Dustless nodded with satisfaction and reached out to grab it. Wanxiang Tianying. What treasure is it? Why is it so mysterious? Sucking the bundle over, Dustless could not wait to shatter the cloth, revealing an extremely delicate brocade box about the size of a football. I believe that this thing will definitely satisfy the hierarch. Tian Yen showed a confident smile. It seemed that she had a card up her sleeve and was sure that this thing would pique Dustless's interest. This thing has an extraordinary significance to the school of Yin-Yang. After a moment of silence, Tian Yen suddenly added. Extraordinary significance to the school of Yin-Yang? Hearing this, Dustless looked at Tian Yen in surprise. This woman seemed to know a lot about the school of Yin-Yang. Things that had an extraordinary significance to the school of Yin-Yang were really rare. Other than the phantasmal sound treasure box, it seemed that there was only, could it be that? Suddenly remembering something, Dustless opened the brocade box in a hurry. Sure enough, there was a golden copper box that he had been yearning for day and night. It really is the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Why would this thing fall into the hands of your school of thought? Chapter 1972. Dustless's heart was filled with astonishment. He had never expected that this thing would fall into the hands of the farmer party. The two were completely unrelated. The farmer party has 100,000 disciples, and their ability to gather information is second among the 100 schools of thought. No one dares to claim to be first, Tian Yen said in a tone that was neither servile nor overbearing. Her words were filled with a faint smugness. You have a point. Hearing this, Dustless uncharacteristically agreed with Tian Yan's point of view. He stared at the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon and then sighed. I really don't understand why Ling wants this thing. Divine might. Space twisted as Dustless sucked the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon into a different space. The 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon and the Yellowstone Heavenly Book had been obtained. After countless twists and turns, the mission was completed. Dustless gave a rare, happy and sincere smile. His gaze softened as he looked at Tian Yen. He said warmly, if the farmer party is willing to give up on opposing the Qin, I can reluctantly let them go. You have the right to do this? You have already exceeded your authority. Tian Yan's face was filled with shock. Pardon or convict the farmer party seemed to be the emperor's right. With my relationship with Fu Su, he will definitely give me this face. Fu Su was a generous person and knew how to repay kindness. If Dustless asked, he would agree. After all, Dustless had saved him many times. Especially this time, if not for Dustless, not only would Fu Su's life have ended, the Qin Empire might have collapsed. However, Dustless suddenly changed the topic and continued, Miss Tian, don't think that this is the case for everyone. Dirty things will always be dirty things. No matter how you wash them, they will always have flaws. Tian Yen fell silent. She naturally knew what Dustless meant. Those stubborn anti-Qin people would probably die no matter what. For example, his second uncle Tian Hu, the barely surviving Gunya, Tian Ming, Xiaoyu, and the others would definitely die. Time flew by and another 3 days passed in a hurry. During this period of time, many big things had happened. What was worth mentioning was that Fu Su had naturally become the successor of the great Qin Empire. In history, this position had belonged to Hu Hai, and it was Hu Hai who had caused the collapse of the great Qin Empire. That fellow Fu Su is indeed the same as the rumors. He is much kinder than his father Ingzheng. On the Mirage, Dustless looked at the distant sea. Under the glow of the sunset, the entire sea seemed to be plated with a layer of dazzling gold. As the saying went, a new official makes 3 sweeping changes. Fu Su, the new emperor, was not an exception. He first abolished the harsh laws of the Qin, and removed all the insane punishments. This caused the Qin to receive much support from the people. Cruel punishments such as being dismembered by 5 horses were all cancelled. Secondly, it was worth mentioning that Fu Su respected the Confucian school and was very grateful to Dustless. He had included many of the Confucian school's sages in the country's constitution and had even conferred some of the people in the Little Sage Manor official positions. Of course, Dustless was also within the scope of the invitation, but he rejected it. The reason was very simple. Letting Dustless destroy a world was his specialty. As for governing a country, it was better to find someone else. Bang, bang, bang. At this moment, the sound of porcelain breaking suddenly rang out. Dustless turned his head slightly and stared at the enraged woman. When he saw the shattered porcelain on the ground, a cold light flashed in his eyes. Tianmi, get this straight. This is the mirage, not your Kuei Hall. The person who had broken the porcelain in anger was the enraged Tianmi. At this moment, she was glaring at Dustless, and the anger in her eyes could not be concealed. Is the Enyang school so despicable? How dare you go back on your words? The anger in Tianmi's heart grew stronger and stronger. Her entire body was bright red, as if she was about to be burned. Her entire body was filled with scorching heat waves. Go back on my words? Dustless raised his eyebrows slightly and said calmly, I don't know what you're talking about, but please pay attention to your status. This is the mirage of the Enyang school. It's not a place for a shrew like you to vent your anger. Dustless's sudden words almost made Tianmi faint. She glared at Dustless and trembled with anger. How dare you call me a shrew? That's right. In my eyes, you're a shrew who goes back on her words. Dustless looked at Tianmi's burning eyes and repeated softly. How long has it been? You haven't brought Zhang Liang's head yet, and you still dare to break things in the mirage. If you're not a shrew, what are you? I'm not the only one who goes back on her words. Since the Enyang school has cooperated with our Kuei Hall, why do you still contact that woman, Tian Yen? Isn't this going back on your words? Tianmi's words were like pearls. She had sent people to secretly observe Tian Yan's every move. Even if I go back on my words, you're the one who went back on your words first. Zhang Liang's head has been delayed again and again. My patience has been exhausted, so I have to find another way out. If I had known that the Kuei Hall was so useless, would have killed you decisively instead of talking about cooperation with you. After all, the way I handled this matter was naive. Dustless belittled Tianmi and her Kuei Hall as worthless. He did not care about Tianmi's livid and murderous face at all. Dustless was not scared. Are you going to tear up the cooperation agreement? Tianmi asked coldly. If I wanted to tear up the agreement, you would have been torn into pieces by now. But it's undeniable that I have a better partner. It's possible for me to tear up the agreement. You know what it means to choose the best tree to nest in, don't you? So, if you don't want you and the force behind you to be destroyed, then work hard. Chapter 1973. Despicable bastard, stop talking to yourself. Tianmi glared at him. Dustless's contact with Tian Yen had already crossed her bottom line. Now, Dustless's attitude really angered her. You're getting a little carried away. Have you forgotten what I said before? With a cold expression, Dustless said coldly, it seems that your value needs to be reassessed, so that you won't be as arrogant as you are now. Reassess? Hearing this, Tianmi snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, her charming face changed and she said with a smile, Sect Master, do you know why I handed Sister Duanmu to you? Don't call me Sister Duanmu. You're not qualified. You two are not familiar with each other. Dustless looked at Tianmi indifferently. He found this woman more and more unpleasant to the eye. Unexpectedly, Tianmi was not disgusted by Dustless's disgusted tone. Instead, she laughed in relief. However, there was a sting in her laughter, which made Dustless even more unhappy. Miss Tianmi, when Dustless was about to give the order to expel her, Tianmi suddenly spoke. Sect Master, is Miss Duanmu lacking physical strength these few days and has not eaten? Even if she has eaten some food, it would be coarse grains like porridge. Tianmi suddenly changed the topic. On the surface, it sounded like nonsense, but Dustless frowned. How do you know? Dustless narrowed his eyes. He keenly sensed that something was wrong. Duanmu Rong really had these symptoms, but Dustless did not care. Perhaps she was not acclimatized to a new environment. Could it be? Thinking of Tianmi's nature, Dustless's face suddenly fell. He said sternly, could it be that you poisoned Rome, Yes. Looking into Dustless's eyes, Tianmi admitted frankly and explained, my strength is not as good as sect masters, so I can only do it from other aspects. Don't talk about sect masters' friends. They are much more careless. So it was poisoned. Dustless's eyes rolled, and the killing intent that he had hidden instinctively burst out in an instant. Tianmi, do you know what your actions are? Dustless forcibly suppressed the rage in his body and said in a hoarse voice, heaven has opened a bright path for you, but you heartlessly rejected it. Instead, you chose the dark path to hell. Are you so stupid that no medicine can save you? You still dare to talk to me with such an attitude? Hearing this, Tianmi's face twitched. Dustless's woman was poisoned, and this guy still dared to be so arrogant. He really didn't care about Duanmu Rong's life at all. Jijia, Dustless gradually revealed his true nature. His eyes were filled with blood mist, and his entire being was as cold as ice. Perhaps you know about my past and feel how stupid your actions are. As soon as his voice fell, Dustless's eyes began to spin, and the Sharingan emitted an ominous light. What do you want to do? Tianmi's face was full of fear. Seeing Dustless's blood-red eyes, her body was boiling uncontrollably, and her whole body was filled with an indescribable oppression. What do I want to do? You will understand immediately. Dustless smiled evilly, stared at Tianmi's eyes and said, have you tried the legendary torture of death by 1,000 cuts, car splitting, and knee digging? Gulp. Hearing this, Tianmi reflexively took a few steps back. She couldn't help but touch Dustless's bottom line. She quickly said, you want to ignore Duanmu Rong's life? If you kill me, she will also die. Didn't I tell you before? Being protective of the fairer sex doesn't mean that you won't kill women. Dragons have reverse scales, and you will die slowly in panic. No matter who it was, traitors were extremely hated, and Dustless was no exception. Even the extent of his hatred for Tianmi reached an unprecedented level. This fellow said that she would cooperate with him, but secretly, she poisoned Duanmu Rong. What's the use of keeping such a vicious person? It's best to send her to heaven. Tsukuyami. With a slight blink of her eyes, Tianmi's pupils instantly turned dark and empty. Plop. In the next second, Tianmi fell to the ground, as if she was experiencing an unprecedented panic. Her entire body was drenched in sweat. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Dustless saw the terrified Tianmi and couldn't help but shake his head. Then, he decisively walked over, and his eyes turned into the Samsara Sharingan. I can extract your memories and see the antidote and the location of the farmer family's group. The big hand grabbed Tianmi's head, and a majestic memory suddenly poured into her mind. Everything about Tianmi's past and the farmer family's secret base appeared in Dustless's eyes. Dustless was extracting Tianmi's memories, and at this moment, something incredible was happening in another direction. What? Lai Mountain Tang wants to withdraw from the alliance and give up hunting down Dustless? In the dead silent room, Tianhu's angry voice sounded. He smashed the table angrily and cursed, what's wrong with a yen? How dare he tear up the agreement we made? This, I don't know. Miss also advised us to abandon the dark and join the light and stop resisting the Qin state. Tian Zhong said helplessly. Give up? No way. Yingzheng is dead now, how can we just give up like that? Thought Wu Qi. In the future, when the Qin state is overthrown, I want to try the emperor's position under his butt. Tian, whose face was full of longing. Facing the emperor's position, no one could let it go. In that case, why don't we go all the way and just give Lai Mountain Tang? Tian Zhong made a throat-cutting gesture, and the meaning was self-evident. Chapter 1974. You mean to kill them? Tian, who understood what Tian Zhong meant immediately. He shook his head resolutely and said, Tian Zhong, we can kill Tian Yen, but we can't destroy Lai Mountain Hall. What do you think, brother? Tian Zhong asked curiously. In his eyes, Tianmi was just like her name. She was always like a tiger and rarely used her brain. I value the throne. Those people of Lai Mountain Hall are suitable to be soldiers and cannon fodder. Tianhu said with a gloomy and cruel smile. Everyone yearned to be the emperor. Stepping on the heads of all living beings and becoming the noblest person in the world, this was a new experience that no one had ever had before. Most likely, no one would be able to resist it. Not everyone was as bored as Dustless. For example, Tianhu. As the saying went, life is short, plants and trees are short. Wasn't it everyone's yearning to make use of this short life to bloom the most dazzling years? In this case, you can't blame us for being cruel. After thinking for a while, Tianzhong was not an indecisive person. He agreed immediately, let's take enough people and go to Yan's trouble now. It's best if she is obedient. If not, we will kill Tian Yan and her brother Tian Ci immediately. Then we will take over Lai Mountain Hall. After that, we will deal with the other hall leaders and unify the agriculture family. At that time, the second leader will be the hero leader. Ha ha ha. You are right. Tian who nodded with satisfaction and left excitedly. He went straight to the base of Lai Mountain Hall. About 2 hours later, the heavens didn't play nice. Dark clouds gathered in the depths of the sky, and a heavy rain was brewing. Boom, boom, boom. After an unknown period of time, perhaps a few short minutes, or perhaps a few hours, the lightning in the void flickered incessantly, and a torrential downpour fell from the sky, covering the entire earth. Damn Tian Yan. He dared to betray me. Damn it. Inside the morning hall of the former clan leader, Tian Meng, Tian who was roaring like a madman. After going around in a big circle, he was shocked to find that all the people in the base of Lai Mountain Hall had already left. There was only an empty morning hall left in the big room. Tian who was shocked and angry. Although he was happy that Tian Yan helped him to plot against others, he was depressed that he was tricked. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. The furious Tian who smashed Tian Meng's memorial tablet. He looked like he was about to explode. His hair stood on end, and blue veins popped out on his fists. Big brother, do you think second miss will? Tianzhong narrowed his small eyes, which were flickering with a gloomy gleam, and said, ever since we succeeded in assassinating Yingzheng, it seems that she has been obeying us in public but opposing us in private. You mean? Hearing this, Tian whose expression changed drastically. He was not an idiot. Naturally, he smelled a conspiracy. He said furiously, are you saying that she betrayed us and might have sided with the Qin army? It's not impossible. The smarter a person is, the more unreliable they are. Tianzhong nodded. He was very suspicious of Tian Yan's whereabouts and motives. Damn it, I'll let you know the consequences of betraying me, Tianhu. Tianhu snatched a blazing torch from one of his subordinates and set the entire morning hall ablaze in an instant. Even the coffin of Tian Meng, who had died, was not spared. He burned all of them into ashes. Retreat. Remember, if you find Tian Yan, that stinking girl, kill her without mercy. Without thinking, Tian Meng went directly to other farming strongholds. His target was Shenong Hall. Second master, what are you? Tianzhong looked at Tianhu, whose face had darkened in confusion, and said with confusion, are you going to make trouble for Shenong Hall? They are not to be trifled with. Even if they are not to be trifled with, I have to. Tianhu looked stubborn. He also knew that he could not touch a tiger's butt, but sometimes, there were too many things that were beyond his control. He did not give Tianhu any extra choice. Rolling his eyes, Tianhu said in a deep voice, Lai Mountain Hall has betrayed us. Now, the farming clan must be in chaos. We have to massacre Shenong Hall as a warning to others. But, Tianzhong was in a dilemma. He was afraid that even if Shenong Hall was destroyed, Chiyu Hall and Gonggang Hall would be greatly weakened. Damn Tianhu, this hatred will be washed away with your blood in the future. In the dense forest not far away, seeing Tianhu and the others leave, flashing figures in the forest quietly rushed out. They were Tian Yen and the people of Lai Mountain Hall, who looked pale. This guy is so shameless. He even burned down the morning hall of the hall master. He used to call the hall master Big Brother, but now he did something worse than a beast. The disciples of Lai Mountain Hall were full of hatred, including Tian Yen. Tian Meng was a good person, and his prestige in Lai Mountain Hall was unparalleled. Most of the disciples loved and respected him very much. But the embarrassing thing was that no one dared to make trouble for Tian Hu. This guy was very strong, and his internal strength was unbelievably deep. If they challenged him, they would only be seeking their own death. I can only ask him for help. I hope Dustless will agree to my conditions. Tian Yen subconsciously thought of Dustless's face. It seemed that except for Dustless, no one could suppress Tian Hu. Lai Mountain Hall attacked Shiyu Hall and Gonggang Hall with only one hall's strength, which was asking for trouble. Tian Yen was also desperate. Although her intelligence was unparalleled, her strength was really not flattering. Her younger brother was known as the #1 expert in the farmer's family. Tian Yen did not want to drag him into this big trouble. Chapter 1975. Even though, to a certain extent, Tian Yen also knew that her actions were foolish, she was still angered by Tian Hu's actions. This guy burned my father's morning hall? Tian Yan's eyes were filled with tears. No one could bear such a thing, especially Tian Hu, who had always called her father Big Brother. She did not expect him to be so cruel and heartless at this moment. It was not difficult to see that Tian Hu's previous kindness was fake. "Miss, why don't you sit on the mountain and watch?" Tian Hu went to the Zhu family of Shenong Hall. In the end, both sides would suffer. If the Zhu family could be destroyed easily, they would have disappeared long ago. Beside Tian Yen, some far-sighted disciples of Lai Mountain Hall suggested softly, "No need to wait." Hearing this, Tian Yen turned and left without saying anything. Her eyes were very determined. It seemed that she was going to find Dustless. Some things were absolutely intolerable. About 10 hours later, on the Mirage. "Miss Tian, do you want to invite me to destroy Tian Hu of Chiyu Hall?" Hearing this, Dustless's face was indescribably strange. If he did not know the inside story, it would be fine. The key was that Dustless was a time traveler, so he naturally knew some secrets very well. "I remember that you are allies. Chiyu Hall, Lai Mountain Hall, Gonggang Hall, and Tian Mi. You seem to have formed an alliance with each other." Dustless asked calmly. "You know this kind of thing?" Looking at Dustless meaningfully, Tian Yen did not talk nonsense and said directly, "I advised Tian Hu to give up the plan of anti-Qin, but he refused. It seems that he intends to annex Lai Mountain Hall left by my father. That bastard also burned my father's morning hall. I can't ignore it. Even if I have to die, I will make him pay with his blood. Damn it." Tian Yen cursed angrily and then said with a confused face, "I really don't understand why he has to fight against Qin. I have promised to give the position of hero chief to Tian Hu. Miss Tian, you are smart all your life, but you are stupid now. Are you confused? Actually, the reason why he worked so hard to oppose Qin is very simple." Dustless was rather surprised, as he did not expect that Tian Yen could not even understand such a basic question. Then, he explained, "Everyone under the heavens is passionate about opposing Qin. No matter it is Yen Dan in the past, or Tian Hu now, including Zhao Gao and Li Si, there is only one reason behind all of this, and that is the position that Ingzheng left for Tian Yen." "You mean, the position of emperor?" After all, Tian Yen was the #1 female strategist in the Farmers Guild. She naturally knew what Dustless was talking about. "Then why aren't you tempted?" Calmly glancing at Dustless, Tian Yen asked quietly, "With your strength, it should not be a problem for you to overthrow the Qin state. Even the rebellion a while ago, if it were not for you, the seemingly powerful Qin state would have collapsed today. That's because you don't know my past. Hearing this, Dustless only revealed a faint smile and explained softly, as the old saying goes, one's life lasts only 1 year. This is only relative to humans. Some higher-level creatures have a lifespan that is far beyond your imagination. Naturally, they had experienced countless things. They did not have any desire for power, and had long since faded away. Just like Xiao Meng of the Heaven sect of Taoism, not everyone pursues the so-called dream of becoming an emperor. However, at the very least, most humans are very interested in the position that is second only to the heavens. Tian Hu is just one of them. What a strange guy. Tian Yen did not understand what Dustless was talking about, but hearing Dustless's vicissitudes of life, he had indeed experienced much more than her. So, what do you think? Are you willing to help me deal with Tian Hu? Tian Yen shifted the topic back to the main track and looked at Dustless expectantly. Well, looking into Tian Yen's eyes, Dustless was silent for a while, then nodded and agreed, although I am a selfish person, but thanks to you for helping me find the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon, there is no harm in helping you once. Besides, I promised Fu Su to help him destroy the farmer family. Leave this matter to me. After all, that group of small fries are frogs at the bottom of the well. They can't do anything. The reason why he was willing to help Tian Yen this time was because of the gratitude sent by the 7 mansions of the Azure Dragon. Moreover, he had promised Fu Su to help him destroy the farmer family's rebels. To some people, such as Tian Mi, Dustless would not admit to his promises. After all, the other party was shameless first. While cooperating with him, Tian Mi also kept in touch with others. Dustless had always been disdainful of such people who dared to secretly poison others. However, Tian Yen was different. She had at least the basic sincerity, unlike Tian Mi who was wavering and did not even have a basic attitude. Lead the way, Miss Tian. Standing up and stretching, Dustless slowly walked over from the main seat. Lead the way? Hearing this, Tian Yen was first stunned, then said speechlessly, just the 2 of us? Don't we need to bring the rest of the Yinyang school? About that, of course not. Dustless said calmly, I know that there are as many as 100,000 disciples in the farmer family, but forgive me for being blunt, most of them are a motley crew. Once they see that something is wrong, they will be like birds startled by the twang of a bough and collapse on their own. I alone am enough to deal with them. That's true. Tian Yen smiled bitterly. Although Dustless's words were unpleasant to hear, it was the truth. More people meant that the quality would definitely drop. This was an unavoidable fact. But do you really have the confidence to defeat them? Otherwise, the 2 of us will be walking into a trap. Tian Yen was still worried. He felt that Dustless was overestimating himself. Who knows? Glancing at Tian Yen, Dustless teased, dying under a peony flower is also a romantic thing. Although this is not bad, I haven't lived enough, so I can only let Tian Hu and the rest die. Chapter 1976. Tian Yen stared at Dustless. To be honest, she wasn't very happy or excited. Does this guy have an ulterior motive? Tian Yen couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. He began to consider what Wu Chen's intentions were. Why are there so many people who like to treat other people's good intentions as cruel and unscrupulous? Seeing the hesitant Tian Yen, Wu Chen immediately guessed that she had other thoughts. She was afraid that he would harm Lai Mountain Tang. Dustless couldn't help but sigh softly, you are not a fish. How can you know the joy of a fish? Don't you think it's interesting and vivid to watch a person die in panic? Interesting? Vivid? Tian Yen raised her eyebrows and said coldly, with all due respect, I don't understand your principles, but now I can see that you are a vulgar man with bad taste. This is not vulgar or bad taste. I am exploring the nature of people. Glancing at Tian Yen indifferently, Dustless said calmly, the strong wind knows the strong grass, and the board knows the loyal minister. A person can only reveal his inner nature when he is most frightened and helpless. In the past, the people you saw were just a layer of skin draped over their bodies. Isn't your second uncle Tian Hu like this? When he saw Miss Tian choose the Enyang school, he immediately revealed his nature. This, Tian Yen pursed her thin lips and found herself speechless. Although she felt that Dustless's words were unreasonable, what he said was also somewhat reasonable. It was at the critical moment that Tian Hu's nature could be seen. He called Tian Yan's father Big Brother, but he actually burned Tian Meng's morning hall. Apathetic and supercilious, this was Tian Hu's nature. I heard that you, the head of the Confucian school, are illiterate, but your fallacious reasoning can make others speechless. Tian Yan, who had no choice but to nod and lead the way. Let's go. Seeing the Tian Yan who was willingly convinced, Dustless was pleased with himself in his heart. In addition to his own strength, Dustless had practiced a god-level eloquence for hundreds of years. At this moment, in another direction. Kill all the people of Shenong Hall. In the wilderness, a group of barbaric slaughters were carried out. Both sides had bloodshot eyes. Between them, even if they belonged to the same faction in the past, at this moment, they were engaged in a life-and-death battle as if they were enemies. After Zheng was killed, the enraged Qin army had turned the entire Mulberry Sea city upside down. Anyone who was suspicious was brought back and interrogated, trying their best not to let anyone escape. The farmers were also forced to move deep into the mountains to avoid being captured by the Qin army. Tian Hu, are you crazy? Zheng is dead, and you are attacking Shenong Hall? What are you trying to do? If you want it, I'll give it to you. In a certain isolated and spacious area, the security was tight. Killing was going on all around, and only this place was like heaven. The people from both sides were faintly restraining themselves. Shakue? Tian Hu held up his hands and looked at the short man wearing a mask in front of him with a sneer. Old bastard Jew, you are still so childish and boring. You said you would give it to me. Do you think I am a child? Humph, Zheng is dead. We don't need to kill each other. Everything is over. Zhu Jia's face was gloomy. He labeled Tian Hu as a moron. The killing within the farmers would only make the enemies happy. Over? How can it be over? I still want to overthrow Fu Su and become the emperor. The Shakue is also mine, the emperor is also mine, and the world is also mine. Tian Hu no longer concealed his madness and said bluntly, of course, if you are willing to kill yourself now, I will let Shenong Hall go. This kind of killing behavior is no different from setting fire to oneself. Gunye frowned. He hated this kind of extreme method. To put it bluntly, Tian Hu just wanted to annex Shenong Hall and then gather all the forces of the farmers. With this as the basis, he would completely eradicate the entire Qin state. To think that there would be such an exciting show in the wilderness. What a pleasant surprise. An indifferent voice suddenly rang out in the sky. Everyone subconsciously looked into the distance and saw that in the sky, groups of flashes of light were quickly converging and gradually condensing into a human figure. Dustless? Gunye and Dustless could be considered old acquaintances. When he heard this voice, he knew that something was wrong. When he saw the mocking expression on Dustless' face, his expression became even more solemn. Oh no, Tianming and Xiaoyu, the two of you hurry up and escape. Gunye hurriedly urged Tianming and Xiaoyu to escape. Dustless was here, and he did not have the confidence to stop him. This fellow was too strong to fight. He can fly. The farmers were all dumbfounded. Dustless's body was strangely floating in the sky. His clear eyes were emotionless as he looked down at everything. What an eyesore. Shoot him down. Tian Hu shouted angrily. Being looked down at by Dustless made him feel extremely uncomfortable. Swish, swish, swish. Hearing Tian Hu's order, the disciples of the Shenong Hall immediately took up their bows and shot at the sky. A rain of arrows immediately tore Dustless into shreds. Puchi. Puchi. Poochie. Dustless's body was pierced through repeatedly, but he was completely fine. His wounds were healed by the elemental energy and he was as good as new in an instant. He was completely unscathed. You don't know what death is. Seeing this, Dustless's face turned cold. Originally, he did not want to waste his time on this group of small fries. Would a giant like him fight with ants? There was no need for that at all. However, since these people had chosen to die, he would be letting them down if he did not send them to hell. Buzz, 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 large ripples appeared in the void all over the sky. Then, countless divine weapons emerged from the ripples. Treasure of the king. Chapter 1977. Gulp. Everyone was stunned when they saw the sky filled with light. Was there a need for such a large number of weapons? Taking a closer look, the entire sky was filled with a golden divine halo. What kind of strange trick is this? Do the school of Yin Yang and the Confucian school have such evil tricks? Tian Hu was dumbfounded. Countless divine weapons filled the air. Even if each disciple of the school of agriculture needed 100 weapons to deal with them, this number was more than enough. Farewell, small fries. With a wave of his hand, the divine light that filled the sky poured down. Poochie. 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 A massacre that was too horrible to look at immediately began. The bodies of countless disciples of the school of agriculture were pierced through, and they were attacked by tens of thousands of weapons. How miserable was this end? It was a blessing to be able to keep their corpses intact. Run. That guy is an evil ghost. How can there be such an evil ghost? He's a demon. Run. In an instant, the disciples of the school of agriculture were all killed by Dustless. Only a small number of disciples managed to escape, but they were all covered in wounds. Everyone looked at the cold figure in the sky in horror. Their faces were filled with fear and panic. Damn it. Tian Hu was furious. He looked around and saw that the scene was bloody and cruel. In less than a minute, all the disciples of the Chiyu Hall had been killed by Dustless. Oh, you're not convinced? Dustless landed on the ground and looked at Tian Hu mockingly. He said sarcastically, Tian Hu, you want to be the emperor with your stupid appearance? Are you a pig? How dare you humiliate me in a battle royale? Tian Hu was furious when he heard this. Dustless dared to call him a pig in front of the Zhu family and everyone else. Not to mention the hot-tempered Tian Hu, anyone else would not have been able to tolerate this. Don't be fooled. If you get angered by Dustless, we will be defeated one by one. Gunya frowned and tried to dissuade Tian Hu. This Tian Hu was too stupid. Destroy them one by one? When he heard this, Dustless could not help but laugh, and a look of disdain appeared on his face as he said, I can understand if someone else said this, but Gunya, don't you think you're lying to yourself? You should know my strength very well. It wasn't that Dustless was looking down on them. Even if this group of people were to attack together, the effect would be next to nothing. Mr. Jean. Tian Hu was too lazy to talk nonsense. With a wave of his hand, a middle-aged man with a gloomy face and a vicious look in his eyes walked out with a majestic gait. Seeing this, Dustless frowned and scolded loudly, where did this handyman come from? If you don't want to die, get lost. You. Hearing this, the swordsman called Mr. Jin's lips trembled. Dustless's words made him very angry. What did he mean by doing odd jobs? Have you ever seen a handyman wield a sword? Preposterous. This was not the most important thing. Dustless looked at Mr. Jean as if he was looking at an ant, which deeply infuriated Mr. Jean. Clang, clang, clang. Mr. Jean unsheathed his sword, which glowed with a dangerous light. He glanced coldly at Dustless and charged forward. Nameless Jr., die. Humph. Seeing that this old man had overestimated himself and was courting death, Dustless naturally did not hold back. He immediately launched a fierce attack, and a dangerous ball of energy appeared at the tip of his finger. Void flash. Swish, swish, swish. The golden ball of energy was extremely fast, and it took only a few seconds to form. Then, Dustless flicked his finger. Boom, boom, boom. A huge ball of fire appeared in the air. Before the swordsman called Mr. Jean could figure out what was going on, his body was destroyed by the merciless heat wave. He disappeared without a trace, and not even a corpse was left behind. Boring. Dustless glanced at Tianhu, Gunia, and the rest with a bored expression. Next, or all of you can come at me together. Dustless's casual and disdainful tone infuriated everyone. I'll do it. An unexpected figure suddenly appeared. He stepped on the snow without leaving a single trace. It seemed like his lightness skills were extremely profound. It's another familiar face. So it's Daoji. After seeing who it was, Dustless suddenly smiled strangely. That's right, I have to thank you for the assassination incident previously, Daoji. Assassination incident? Daoji, who had intended to attack directly, was stunned by Dustless's words. He asked in confusion, what are you talking about? I don't understand. Ayaya, how long has it been since that incident? Have you forgotten? Dustless smiled sinisterly. He then purposely reminded Daoji, a few days ago, you snuck into the elusive mirage and eavesdropped on my conversation with the moon goddess. That happened not too long ago. What? You discovered me? Daoji's eyes went wide, his face filled with disbelief. Then, he roared furiously, impossible. If you've really discovered me, you shouldn't have told me the time of Zhang's tour to the east and the time of his arrival in Mulberry Sea. This guy, although Daoji was not very smart, there were still some who were more intelligent than others, such as Master Fan. His eyes flickered and his fists clenched. He seemed to have understood the conspiracy behind this. Hee hee. How rare. Fortunately, there are still some smart people among you. Seeing Gunia's awkward expression, Dustless mocked him loudly. That's right. I was the one who leaked the news of Zhang's visit to the Mulberry Sea on purpose. My goal was to attract you rebels and capture all of you in one fell swoop. Humph, then your plan will be ruined. You should know that Zhang is dead, right? Daoji sneered. He felt that Dustless had shot himself in the foot. Idiots, haven't you figured it out yet? The person who killed Zhang is me. Do you really think that the wrath of heaven killed Zhang? A bunch of idiots. Chapter 1978. Dustless's words were like a huge boulder that fell into the deep sea, causing a huge ripple. Everyone was stunned on the spot, their bodies seemed to be imprisoned and unable to move. Among them, the one who reacted the most intensely was naturally the terrified Daoji. At first, he was still proud of himself. After all, it was because of the information he obtained that they were able to kill Zhang. Otherwise, this guy might have lived a few more thoughts and Zhang would not have died. As for those who died because of the mission, he could only say sorry. Since it was a mission, there must be some sacrifices. All in all, it was worth it to be able to kill Zhang. Impossible, 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 absolutely impossible. The thief shook his head like a rattledrum. Looking at Wu Chen's handsome face, which was full of ridicule, he felt a heavy blow to his heart. All along, he had been proud of himself. After all, he was the one who got the information. But now, what made Daoji collapse was that all of this was a trap set by Dustless. His great contribution had also become his greatest humiliation. Impossible? Dustless curled his lips in disdain and humiliated loudly, Daoji, you are an idiot. Do you really think your movement technique is unparalleled? This is too funny. Huff, huff, huff. Hearing Dustless's harsh mockery, Daoji's face turned red with anger and his body trembled. Brother Daoji, you must stay calm. Don't be fooled. Master Fan quickly reminded him, hoping that Daoji would calm down. But it seemed to be useless. Human nature is indeed fragile. Looking at the dazed robber Ji, Dustless casually picked up a blade of grass and held it in his mouth. He sighed with emotion. Once a person's belief collapses, this person will inevitably become a walking corpse. There's no need to even kill him. Dustless glanced at the people of Xiang clan and said indifferently, next. As for Daoji, Dustless gave him a quick glance and ignored him. It was not hard to see that this guy was ignored. Perhaps, Daoji had fallen into endless fear for the rest of his life. You! The people of the farmer's clan and the disciples of the Xiang clan all glared at Dustless. They were all filled with righteous indignation and hatred for Dustless. How could you be so despicable? The clear voice looked over, full of confidence, like the embodiment of justice, causing people to raise their eyebrows. This is, Dustless's line of sight slightly froze. He looked in the direction of the voice, and a young man with an imposing appearance, like a god descending to the mortal world, came into view. Xiaoyu, get back here. When Master Fan and the others saw Dustless staring at Xiaoyu, their faces filled with worry. They tried to protect him, but he was too strong. He forced his way out of the crowd. So it's the future hegemon of Western Chu, Xiaoyu. What advice do you have for me? Dustless looked at Xiaoyu with a smile. When he saw the righteous indignation on Xiaoyu's face and thought of Xiang Yu's actions in history, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. I know you are born with extraordinary strength, but do you think you can defeat me? You sinister villain, how dare you scheme against everyone? You are so despicable. Xiaoyu was not as shrewd as Master Fan and the others. He said straightforwardly, if you have the guts, let's duel face to face. What's the point of playing such tricks? TSK, your ability to play the blame game has reached perfection. Even I can't catch up with you. Dustless gave Xiaoyu a thumbs up and praised, I also wonder just who are the ones who have been hiding here and they're like rats all along. Of course it's you, you big bastard. The other people of the farmer's clan also stood up to support Xiaoyu, but they were all very afraid. The laws of the Qin state are strict, and the taxes are harsh. Those who commit injustice are doomed to self-destruction. Since ancient times, such a state will inevitably be destroyed. People like you will also be crushed by the wheels of history. Xiang Yu's voice was sonorous, and his eyes were shining. He believed in Dustless. You are right, Xiaoyu. Wu Chen nodded and agreed. Starting from Xia, Shang, and Zhou, every country collapsed in the end. In the end, it was caused by the muddle-headed and tyrannical monarchs of their countries. This is very true, but there is one thing that you are wrong about. What is it? Xiaoyu raised an eyebrow and asked. You don't know? Young people really only know how to be hot-blooded. Dustless's lips curled into a playful smile, and his tone became a few times more contemptuous. The land under my feet is not a simple piece of land, nor is it a country or two. I am talking about the whole world. History will prove who is the master and who is the guest. Yes, history will prove everything. You have only won one round. Xiaoyu nodded in agreement, but he did not see the strange smile on Dustless's face. What a pity. You have lost the right to be chosen by history. Now, turn into dust. Dustless laughed sinisterly, and a majestic murderous aura locked onto Xiaoyu. He said coldly, history will choose the final winner to be the master of the world. This is not wrong at all. But sorry, I forgot to say something just now. It's not too late to add it now. The one who controls history and decides the direction of the world is me. Now, I declare that you can be swept into the trash heap of history. The reason is that you are too hypocritical. His eyes gently landed on Xiaoyu's head, and his demonic eyes slowly moved, emitting a terrifying aura. Under everyone's shocked gaze, Xiaoyu was evaporated in an instant. Heavenly reflection. Boundless black flames burned on Xiaoyu's body without any warning. He did not even have time to scream before he was burned by the violent black flames. Young Lord. The followers of the Xiang clan were dumbfounded as they watched this tragic scene. They did not even have time to save Xiaoyu before he was killed and disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1979. Young Master. The lackeys of the Xiang clan all looked at Wu Chen with hatred. Their ferocious and hateful expressions were clearly visible. Their eyes were full of rage, as if they wanted to kill Wu Chen with 1,000 cuts. Only then would they be happy. What kind of gentleman is that? Bah! Dustless ridiculed with disdain. Xiaoyu said that he was helping the tyrant, but what about himself? Although Xiang Yu was a great hero in history, he was also a butcher. Xiang Yu had organized several massacres in succession. First, after conquering the Qin kingdom, he burned down the entire Xianyang. At least 200,000 people were killed by Xiang Yu, and most of them were ordinary people who had no strength to truss a chicken. And this kind of massacre was absolutely not a simple 1 or 2 times. There were records of as many as 6 times. Therefore, Wu Chen felt that Xiao Yu's hypocrisy was laughable. What qualifications did he have to say that Wu Chen was helping the evildoer? Well, let's move on to the next one. Dustless waved his hand. His words made everyone vomit blood. Don't waste time. Let's fight together. Tian, who did not dare to be reserved at this moment. Originally, he wanted to make trouble for the Shenongtang, but now it seemed that his plan was ruined. It would be God's mercy if he was not destroyed by Dustless. Cough, cough, cough. If you want to fight, please stop him first. Situ Wanli, the hall master of the Four Mountains Hall, put on a look of indifference. He put all the responsibility on Tian Hu and betrayed him without any integrity. You are the only one who wants to be the emperor. We, the Shenongtang and the Four Mountains Hall, don't have that kind of plan. Zhu Jia, a short fat man with a mask, echoed. Puff. Hearing this, Tian Hu was so angry that his blood was boiling. Finally, he spat out a mouthful of bright red blood. Tian Hu pointed at Situ Wanli and Zhu Jia with trembling hands and shouted angrily, Bastard, we are all farmers. Don't you understand that we are interdependent? Without the lips, the teeth will be cold. Hearing this, Zhu Jia continued to sneer, When you attacked the Shenongtang, why didn't I see you say that? Now that you're in trouble, you deserve it. You damned bastard, Tian Hu flew into a rage. His nostrils flared up like a cow's, and his eyes turned red. The people of Shenong Hall are not easy to kill. Dustless frowned slightly. As for the people of Shenong Hall, this special force was really not easy to deal with. The Zhu clan of the Shenong clan had a close relationship with Lord Chongping. There were even rumors that the Shenong clan was a life-saving talisman that Lord Chongping had left for Fu Su. Lord Chongping was Fu Su's uncle. Therefore, Fu Su could destroy the other clans, but not the Shenong clan. In fact, Fu Su considered the Shenong clan as one of his own from the start. However, according to Dustless's thoughts, Shenongtang wasn't a good person either. He might as well exterminate them. However, Dustless had no choice but to give him some face and muddle through. But speaking of which, other than Xiang Yu, I've also seen a great figure. His gaze was fixed on the man behind the Zhu clan. This man was quite handsome, and his eyes were deep. He seemed to be very smart, and there was a smile on his face that didn't care about anything. I'm Lu Ji. As if sensing Dustless's gaze, this man stood out and cupped his fist to greet him. He was very polite, and the first impression he gave people was that he was very friendly and approachable. This guy, hearing this, Dustless only stared at him deeply and didn't say anything. This Lu Ji was actually Lu Bang, and his reputation had even surpassed the current emperor Fu Su. Tian Hu, you will definitely die today. At the same time, Tian Yen, who had arrived, let out a cold voice. Looking at the corpses on the ground, he was shocked. You did all of this? Tian Yen was dumbfounded. He had a new understanding of Dustless's strength. It's as you see. Dustless nodded and admitted. He didn't care about Tian Yan's shocked gaze. He had destroyed many worlds, and destroying Chiyu Hall was nothing. You traitors of the farmer's clan, I'll exterminate all of you. A cornered dog would jump over a wall. Tian Hu, who had been driven mad, also unleashed his bestial nature. He didn't even care about Dustless. He turned around and rushed toward the Zhu clan. Bone Demon, Tian Zhong, let's go together and kill them all. Tian Hu didn't forget to call out to his two underlings. However, he didn't know that a black shadow had already blocked his way. Get out of my way, Dustless. Seeing Dustless blocking his way, Tian Hu angrily rebuked, this is the internal matter of the farmer's clan. Don't interfere. Otherwise, I'll even. You're going to kill me too. You're so arrogant, but... Dustless changed the topic. He stared at Tian Hu's stomach and advised, next time when you say something like this, please take a look at your stomach. What do you mean? Hearing this, Tian Hu was stunned. Then, a scorching pain came from his stomach. He subconsciously looked at his stomach, and his pupils suddenly widened several times. When did this start? Tian Hu was stunned. He didn't know when it started. His stomach had been pierced by Dustless, and he was bleeding non-stop. However, he didn't even have any basic reaction. It was as if nothing had happened. If it weren't for Dustless's reminder, Tian Hu really wouldn't know anything. Die in peace. You can't be the emperor just because you want to. Dustless waved his hand with a look of disdain. This guy was obviously the arrogant type. He was not suitable to be the emperor. He was even worse than Hu Hai, who had been killed before. It was better for him to die early and purify the world. Almost all the ordinary disciples of Chiyu Hall had been wiped out by Gate of Babylon. Occasionally, the fish that escaped the net were disabled. Now that Tian Hu, the hall master, was dead, Chiyu Hall was gone. Chapter 1980. The remaining disciples of the school of Farmer gasped involuntarily. This level of strength was not something they could compete with. Neither quantity nor quality could defeat this unfathomable man. That skinny body contained explosive power that could easily kill anyone. Tian Hu and the disciples of Chiyu Hall who had died one after another had proven this. Run! Tian Zhong and Bone Demon saw that the situation was not good and scrambled to retreat. You are courting death. Seeing this, Wu Chen was not polite at all. He waved his hand, and the ability of Gate of Babylon was launched again. Dozens of vortex ripples appeared in the void, and then dense wizard weapons shot out from it. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. With a slight thought, a large number of weapons shot out and went straight for the two. Puff. Although their speed was fast and they used all of their strength, it was still too slow. Their bodies were destroyed by the Gate of Babylon, and huge bloody holes appeared on their bodies. Plop. In the end, the two of them looked at Dustless unwillingly and fell to the ground. They died and closed their eyes in despair. It's more or less settled. Looking at the remnants of the school of Farmer, Dustless sighed. He did not find any trace of Zhang Liang and the others. Then, he felt relieved. The world was so big that it was not easy to find them. Although it was still the feudal ancient times and everything was still in the primitive period, the entire Qin Empire had a population of 20 to 30 million. It was not easy to find Zhang Liang and the others among this group of people. It was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Of course, it was also possible that after knowing that Yingzheng was dead, their long-cherished wish was fulfilled and they all retired from the Jianghu. Although this possibility was very small, Dustless could only hope for the best. Even though he knew that the reality was cruel, sometimes people had to be optimistic. He took it as a way to cheer himself up. Su Ren is too kind in doing things. It is not a good thing to remember old friendships. Dustless looked at the school of Farmer, shook his head and left. This guy left just like that? When the crowd saw Dustless leave, they heaved a sigh of relief, but at the same time, they were also confused. Ha ha ha, there's nothing to be surprised about. Don't forget that our Shenong Hall has a close relationship with Lord Changping, and Lord Changping is Fu Su's uncle. He has no reason to wipe out our Shenong Hall. We didn't participate in the assassination of Yingzheng either. Young Master Fu Su has a warm personality, unlike Yingzheng who kills people like flies. Zhu Jia was quite proud and seemed to admire his foresight. Ha ha ha, however, when he heard those words, a cold smile flashed across Lu Ji's face. At the same time, the young man standing beside him, Han Xian, was also hiding his strength. The two of them smiled knowingly, but no one noticed. Are you going to let the Zhu clan off just like that? Tian Yan, who had caught up, looked at Dustless with a perplexed expression. She felt that there was something wrong with this fellow's head. In her eyes, Dustless was the type of person who would seek revenge for the slightest mistake. Do you really believe that the Shenong Hall didn't participate in the assassination of Yingzheng? Seeing Dustless silent, Tian Yan frowned and asked again. The Shenong Hall was very interested in the assassination of Yingzheng. If they didn't participate in the assassination, it would be too childish. Of course I know this. Dustless nodded, then shrugged and said indifferently, but I promised Fu Su that as long as the people of the Shenong Hall don't attack us, I won't do anything. And that Han Xian and Lu Ji both participated in the assassination of Yingzheng, right? It's just that compared to others, they did it in a more subtle way. Dustless's eyes lit up, and he explained softly that Lu Ji is a big shot. Unfortunately, he is too good at disguising himself. He is even smarter than Zhang Liang. You should be careful of him when you are in the Shenong Hall. Lu Ji? What's so special about him? Tian Yan was puzzled. Suddenly, Lu Ji's appearance and his past life appeared in her mind, but it seemed that there was nothing special about him. Not only that, Lu Ji was also very fond of gambling and often lost everything. He didn't look like a person who could achieve great things. You pay too much attention to his appearance. Sooner or later, you will be killed by others. When a fierce tiger shows its fangs, it means that you have been marked with the label of death. Dustless shook his head. At first, when he saw Lu Ji for the first time, he didn't feel that there was anything special about him. He only felt that he was very friendly. But behind his back, it was different. His eyes were like a pool of stagnant water, so he was definitely a person who was very scheming and shrewd. In history, after the destruction of the Qin state, the founder of the Han dynasty was Liu Bang, who was Lu Ji just now. In this way, was he still an ordinary mortal? No matter which dynasty the founding emperor was in, he had wisdom and strategy far beyond that of ordinary people. How could Lu Ji, who could seize the great rivers and mountains from Xiangyu, be an unknown person? Even Tian Yan, the first female think tank of the farmers, was deceived by his appearance. Of course, Tian Yan didn't understand what these words meant. Not everyone was a time traveler like Dustless, who had the heaven-defying ability to see the future. Anyway, there's still a long time. Let's wait and see. Dustless walked away calmly. It didn't matter to him whether he was the emperor or not. After all, it wouldn't be long before he left this world and waited for Yun Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality. As for the future of Dustless, Dustless had done his best. Everything was built according to his ideals. Even if the Qin state collapsed in the future, it had nothing to do with Dustless. What a strange guy. She glanced at Dustless and stared at his back as he walked away. She couldn't understand what Dustless was thinking. He was so mysterious and scary every time. Chapter 1981. Those who can be emperors are all ambitious and ruthless people. Wu Chen sighed with emotion as he walked. Before he left, he didn't forget to glance at Lu Ji. Who would have thought that this guy was also staring at him? He immediately smiled gently and elegantly. Is Lu Ji declaring that he is the winner? With a slight frown, Dustless quickened his pace. He was too lazy to argue with this group of rats crossing the street. For some people, the more you care about them, the more arrogant they will be. If you simply ignore them, you might be like an ant on a hot pan and become chaotic in advance. Humph, a fox will always show its tail. I want to see how capable you bunch of clowns are and what kind of waves you can stir up. Even if you want to stir up a stormy wave, it's best if you don't drown yourselves. Dustless snorted coldly and quickly retreated. The moment he turned his head, Dustless accidentally caught a different kind of expression from Lu Ji's eyes, disappointment. It seems that Lu Ji is very sad and disappointed that I didn't kill Zhu Jia. Dustless lowered his head and thought. He muttered to himself, could it be an illusion? It shouldn't be. Could it be that Lu Ji wants to use me to kill Zhu Jia and then rightfully ascend to the position of the Hall Master? Dustless thought over and over again. This was the only possibility. It should be understood that Zhu Jia's words carried enormous weight in the Shenong Hall. He was very good at gathering people's hearts. He was also very friendly to his subordinates. If he was killed, it would inevitably arouse the hatred of everyone. This guy is really good at calculating. Turning his head and glancing at Lu Ji in surprise, Dustless smiled with admiration. Sure enough, those who can be emperors are the type of people who do things flawlessly. You want me to take the blame for you? Dream on. Dustless narrowed his eyes and sneered. After all, he was also a transmigrator. If he could not even defeat an indigenous emperor more than 2,000 years ago, he might as well find a piece of tofu and kill himself. Moreover, Dustless was also familiar with the development of history. This was his biggest advantage. If I'm not wrong, Lu Ji will definitely kill Zhu Jia. Shenongtang was quite powerful in the farmers' clan. Who was the biggest obstacle for Lu Ji to swallow it? Without a doubt, it was naturally the current hall master of the Zhu clan. As long as this guy didn't die, Lu Ji had no place to make a move. Speaking of which, I wonder how Yun Zhongjuan's refining of the elixir of immortality is going. Rolling his eyeballs, Dustless couldn't help but think of the importance of the immortality pill. For now, the girls in the system were still okay, but as for Duanmu Rong, and Xiao Ming, their lifespans were no different from ordinary human beings. As for the matter of Lu Ji, Dustless was more indifferent to it after thinking about it carefully. As long as Lu Ji, the founding emperor of the Han dynasty, still wanted to be the emperor, he would definitely show his true colors. It was just a matter of time. According to the development of history in the future, Zhang Liang's inexplicable disappearance is most likely related to this Lu Ji. Moreover, it was worth mentioning that Lu Ji had several loyal subordinates, such as Zhang Liang and Han Xian. In the end, they all became his loyal subordinates. Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and Xiao He were known as the three heroes of the early Han dynasty in history. In the dark secret room, the lights were dim, and the atmosphere was extremely oppressive. What do you think? A rather cautious voice rang out and spread to every corner. Looking up, several black shadows flickered in the dark environment, which was quite strange. Dustless actually took the initiative to leave. The calm tone was filled with confusion and confusion. The person continued, I've known Dustless for a long time. He has always been the kind of person who kills all his enemies. Who would have thought that he would let Zhu Jia go at this moment? To be honest, I'm also very surprised. This is the complete opposite of what we had planned. The result is the complete opposite of what we had planned. We miscalculated. These three people were Zhang Liang, Han Xian, Lu Ji, and Xiao Yao Zi of Taoism. The one who spoke was Zhang Liang, who was frowning. Originally, I planned to use Dustless to kill Zhu Jia. In this way, Yinyang School and even the Qin Kingdom would inevitably be hostile to Shenong Hall. It would be easy to instigate them. Unexpectedly, Dustless. Alas, the world is really changeable. It seems that my chance hasn't come yet. Lu Ji sighed softly, and his tone was somewhat lost. According to his script, Dustless should be angry and kill Zhu Jia, and then he would smoothly become the new hall chief. Lu Ji was the core disciple of Shenong Hall and secretly controlled many people. In addition, he had a close personal relationship with Situ Wanli of Four Mountains Hall. At that time, he could take advantage of the situation to fight against the Qin kingdom. It's too early to say that the time hasn't come yet. Don't forget that we still have a trump card. At this moment, Xiaoyao Zi of the Taoist human sect suddenly said, the value of that card is no less than that of Wuchen. If it is used to kill the Zhu family, the whole Shenong Hall will be in an uproar. Do you mean, her? In his mind, a wonderful and beautiful figure suddenly appeared. Her temperament was mysterious. This person could only be looked up to, but could not be seen close. Not bad, but it's a pity that it was exposed so early. Zhang Liang also sighed helplessly, and his words were full of resentment. You bastards are really not good things. I thought you had turned over a new leaf. It turns out that each one of you is more cunning and shameless than the other. What they didn't know was that in the invisible space, a blurry shadow was right in front of them, but Zhang Liang and the others couldn't see its existence at all. This was the shadow of Dustless's tomb of Samsara border prison, and no one could see it clearly. Not only was the power of this move astonishing, but it could also crush the enemy in actual combat. It was also 1 in a million when it was used to gather information. In fact, the moment Dustless left, he left his shadow behind and followed Lu Ji and the others. Chapter 1982. Although using the Tomb of Reincarnation to gather information sounded a little extravagant and appalling, it was undeniable that this technique was perfect in all aspects. No one had discovered the existence of the shadow. The Tomb of Reincarnation was equivalent to hiding in another world. No matter how powerful the technique was, Zhang Liang and the others would not be able to discover it. Although some things have changed, the trajectory of history is still moving forward. Dustless was filled with emotions. He suddenly realized that he had helped Lu Ji once because Lu Ji had an extremely difficult opponent, but he had already killed him. It was a mistake to kill Xiaoyu. If I had known this would happen, would have let him live a little longer. Maybe he would have fought with Lu Ji. Otherwise, with Xiaoyu as a potential enemy, Lu Ji would never have been able to rise so quickly. Now, he was colluding with Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others. In history, the hegemon of Western Chu, Xiang Yu, and Lu Bang, Lu Ji, were enemies. Lu Ji had almost been defeated and killed by Xiang Yu several times. However, with the help of Zhang Liang, Han Xian, and the others, Lu Ji finally defeated Xiang Yu and forced the hegemon of Western Chu to commit suicide in the Wu River. Speaking of which, who is the trump card they are talking about? Humans were curious creatures, and Dustless was no exception. In fact, he was even more curious than the others. After all, it was not difficult to hear from Zhang Liang and the others that this was a trump card that could turn defeat into victory. This is interesting. I didn't expect them to have such a person as their backer. With a relieved smile, Dustless no longer hesitated and walked unhurriedly toward the mirage. You are really strange. Tian Yen also saw Dustless's strange behavior and did not know whether to laugh or cry. Encountering trivial matters that you can't understand aroused your interest. Yes. Wu Chen admitted frankly and didn't conceal anything, and he went straight to the point. Everything operates exactly according to what I control. In this way, it's truly too boring, and I can't even find the true essence of life. Occasionally, a few self-righteous rats will jump out. In fact, this is also very interesting. Just treat it as a way to pass the time. When Yun Zhongjuan's elixir of immortality is refined, it will not be too late to feed this group of worthless rats rat poison and poison them to death. Tian Yen did not say anything. It was no secret that Yun Zhongjuan was refining the elixir of immortality. The mirage was built for this purpose. The night sky was dotted with stars and the moonlight was like a plate. The scenery was beautiful. The bright moon in the night sky was especially bright and eye-catching. On the elusive mirage, the security was also much more relaxed than usual. Most of the rebels had been killed, so the defense was also relaxed. Although there were still a few fish that escaped the net, most of them were hiding, so it was not a big deal. How's the progress? Dustless, who was sitting on the main seat in the hall, turned his head and glanced at Yun Zhongjuan. He then asked casually, Yun Zhongjuan, I have high hopes for you. Yun Zhongjuan raised his head in panic and glanced at Dustless. He cursed inwardly, being with a king is like being with a tiger. Then, he cupped his fists and said, Sect Master, you're too kind. I'm extremely afraid. How's the refining of the elixir of immortality coming along? I need a satisfactory answer. Staring at Yun Zhongjuan, who was sweating profusely, Dustless said softly, everyone's patience is limited. When a tiger can't stand an empty stomach, it will show its fangs and tear everything apart. Yueshan and concubine Yen, who were standing on both sides of Dustless, glanced at Dustless in surprise. Dustless had always tolerated Yun Zhongjuan and gave him enough time to refine the elixir of immortality. This had also made Yun Zhongjuan's temper worse. This was normal. With a strong backer, anyone's temper would become worse. Sometimes, Yun Zhongjuan even dared to oppose Yueshan, the right guardian, and concubine Yen. Yun Zhongjuan was even more nervous. He naturally understood what Dustless meant. He immediately said respectfully, Sect Master, you are blessed by heaven. I have successfully refined the elixir of immortality. Yun Zhongjuan took out a jade bottle from his arms with trembling hands. He pointed at the elixir in the bottle and said, but due to the lack of time, I have only successfully refined one elixir. You really succeeded? Dustless's indifferent face was filled with disbelief. After all, legends were legends. Anyone would be surprised when it became a reality. Hurry up and bring it to me. Dustless quickly hooked his finger and motioned for Yun Zhongjuan to quickly bring it over for him to take a look. Sect Master, please take a look. Yun Zhongjuan smiled proudly and trotted over. He handed the jade bottle in his hand to Dustless and stroked his beard proudly. He glanced at Yueshan and concubine Yen provocatively and laughed in his heart. Don't think that flattery is only your strength. Humph. The two women snorted coldly. Yun Zhongjuan was becoming more and more arrogant. Is this the so-called elixir of immortality? Dustless glanced at Yun Zhongjuan suspiciously. He poured out the elixir in the bottle and carefully stared at the golden granules that looked like jelly beans. They were indeed extraordinary. The fragrance of the elixir filled the air, making one's index finger twitch. Something doesn't seem right. Dustless suddenly thought of the fundamental reason why the mirage was built. He couldn't help but doubt the authenticity of the elixir in his hand. Why was the mirage built? It was to find the immortal herbs to refine the elixir of immortality. If Yun Zhongjuan could refine the elixir of immortality directly, what was the use of the mirage? Yun Zhongjuan, after glancing at the elixir in his hand, Dustless suddenly handed it to Yun Zhongjuan and said in a commanding tone, Eat it now, or I will kill you immediately. Dustless's face changed rapidly. There was a cold chill lingering around him. Obviously, he was not joking. What is going on? Yun Zhongjuan was stunned. He was fine just now. Why did he suddenly turn hostile? He was even faster than flipping the pages of a book. Chapter 1983. Yun Zhongjuan could not breathe properly under Dustless's cold gaze. He trembled as he took the pill from Dustless. His face was dark, and his eyes were fixed on the golden pill. He could not swallow it. Could it be that something is wrong? Concubine Yen and Moon Goddess looked at each other. They could not figure out what Dustless was thinking. Time passed by quickly. When people were anxious, they didn't have any concept of time. Therefore, time passed much faster than usual. It was only a snap of the fingers, but in reality, it had already been around 15 minutes. What's wrong, Yun Zhongjuan? Don't you have confidence in your pill? Seeing that Yun Zhongjuan did not move, Dustless explained softly, or, do you think that you are very important to me and that I won't kill you? I don't dare. Hearing the hostility in Dustless's words, Yun Zhongjuan hurriedly knelt on the ground in fear. If you don't dare, swallow it. With a sneer, Dustless ordered, Yun Zhongjuan, I will count to 5. If you continue to hesitate for more than 5 seconds, I promise to throw you into the sea to feed the fish. 1. 2. 3. Yun Zhongjuan felt that his spirit was about to collapse. He looked at the golden pill in his hand. In fact, he was not sure. He just made it to fool Dustless. He did not know the specific effect of the pill. Why did he dare to fool Dustless? The reason was actually quite simple. The so-called elixir of immortality could make people immortal. Its effect could only be discerned at the end of one's life. Dustless was young. Even if he ate it, it would not have much effect. Therefore, Yun Zhongjuan dared to fool Dustless. However, what surprised Yun Zhongjuan the most was that Wuchen had never thought that he would give such a precious elixir of immortality to someone else. Moreover, he had even asked Yun Zhongjuan to eat it in front of him. Yun Zhongjuan did not expect this at all. Obviously, Wuchen was using him as a guinea pig for Wuchen to observe the effects of the elixir. Gulp. Yun Zhongjuan had no choice but to swallow the golden ammunition. Yun Zhongjuan, how do you feel? Do you have any signs of returning to your original state? After a few minutes, Dustless lazily asked in a low voice. Yun Zhongjuan was extremely embarrassed by Dustless's question. He hurriedly confessed, Sect Master, please forgive me. Although the efficacy of this pill is amazing, it's still far from immortality. Is that so? Upon hearing this, Dustless looked at Yun Zhongjuan quietly. His eyes flickered, and no one knew what he was thinking. Yun Zhongjuan is in trouble. Imperial concubine Yen and the moon goddess smiled knowingly. They were very happy to see Yun Zhongjuan's misfortune. Yun Zhongjuan had always thought that he was superior to others because he could help Dustless refine the elixir of immortality. This subordinate knows his mistake. Yun Zhongjuan lowered his head in shame, not daring to look into Dustless's eyes. Yun Zhongjuan, you can leave now. Next time, you must bring me the real elixir of immortality. Remember, it's the real deal. Dustless emphasized his words. He then waved his hand and motioned for Yun Zhongjuan to leave. Yun Zhongjuan was stunned for a moment. He thought that Dustless might kill him to vent his anger. He didn't expect that the matter would be settled so hastily. He didn't even punish him. This subordinate will leave now. Seeing that Dustless had forgiven him this time, Yun Zhongjuan quickly bowed and left. The moon goddess and imperial concubine Yen also looked at Yun Zhongjuan in disbelief. They could see the astonishment in each other's eyes. Since when did Dustless become so kind? It shouldn't be. You two want to ask me why I didn't kill this kid? Leaning his head on his right hand, Dustless said tiredly, it's useless even if I kill Yun Zhongjuan. The elixir of immortality still can't be refined successfully. Instead of that, it's better to show mercy and severity. First, let Yun Zhongjuan feel the fear of death. Then, I'll pardon him easily. What's the difference? Imperial concubine Yen asked in confusion. Of course it's different. Dustless explained faintly, people will only feel how sad it is to lose something when they are worried about gains and losses. If they can start over, they will cherish it more. Yun Zhongjuan almost lost his life this time. In the future, he will cherish his life more. In order not to die, he will work harder for me until he can refine the elixir of immortality. In other words, one will only know how to cherish something after losing it. It seems to be the case. The moon goddess nodded in agreement. She admired Dustless from the bottom of her heart. She thought that this guy was strong, but she didn't expect him to be so thorough in his analysis of human nature. At the same time, another conspiracy was unfolding in another direction. I hope it's worth it. In a secret stronghold deep in the mountains. Lu Ji, Zhang Liang, Han Xian, Gunya, Xiaoyao Zi, and the others were secretly lurking there. The person who sighed before was Xiaoyao Zi. Is that woman really reliable? I heard that she is a lackey of the Qin kingdom. Han Exan looked at Xiao Zi, his tone somewhat suspicious and uneasy. Brother Han Exan, don't worry. Xiao Zi smiled. Not long ago, I gave the snow of the Taoist school to junior sister Xiaomeng and guaranteed that the human sect would be affiliated with the heaven sect in the future. The grudge between us has been resolved. Since the two sects have merged into one, junior sister Xiaomeng has no need to make things difficult for us and even stand on the opposite side of the Qin kingdom. Even if the grudge between the two sides has been resolved, how can you be sure that Xiaomeng will stand on the opposite side of the Qin kingdom? Han Exan asked with a frown, feeling a little uncertain. Of course, it's the Enyang school. Don't forget that the Enyang school was also a part of the Taoist school hundreds of years ago. Xiaomeng is a proud person. Will she let the Taoist school be inferior to the Enyang school? The two sides are destined to part ways. This is inevitable. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.